Hello out there, internet world. It's your bearded brothers back yet again with yet another sports podcast. My name is Matt.
Hi.
That's my weird brother Chris. We are, of course, the bearded brothers. And we are back to discuss everything that happened in week 4 in the NFL and some other things. I think, Chris, should we start with sad news first?
I mean, it's more sad for you than it is for me, so go ahead.
Let's get it out of the way first. We lost 2 sports legends over the past weekend. First off, Dikembe Mutombo, the man with the giant finger wag. No. Every time he blocked you, he unfortunately passed away from brain cancer. And 83-year-old hit king from Major League Baseball, Pete, I will never be in the Hall of Fame, Rose. Actually, it was a lifetime ban, but now his lifetime is over, so does that mean he's eligible?
Yeah, it depends on what they define as the lifetime. Is it his lifetime, or is it the lifetime of the sport?
I kind of see where you're going with that. But yeah, he also unfortunately passed away at the age of 83. And we lost several other individuals. Chris Christopherson passed away. Dame Maggie Smith has passed away. The voice of Oogie Boogie passed away. So, quick moment of silence for all of that. Here's the real ones. Hello, Burb. There's a Loki. All right. Chris, you know what my new favorite thing is right now?
The Vikings?
It has to do with the Vikings, yes.
Okay.
Yes. But they've been my favorite thing for a long time. My new favorite thing is watching all of these people that predicted the Vikings to start absolute trash and horrible, like 0-7, 0-4, 0 and just be the absolute trash team, have to eat their own words and backtrack.
Well, there's some of that, but I thought what was really funny is I've been watching even Rich Eisen or Mike Florio or Chris Sims or Colin Cowherd or name drop whoever else you want to throw in here, right? And they're like, no one saw this coming. No one thought this was going to happen. Let's rewind for a second. You and I did agree that the first 5 games were going to be the hardest of this schedule.
After you and I agreed we might be pretty good.
You and I also agreed that there's a good chance we'd end up being 2-3, 1-4 by the time we got to week 5. Or we got to the bye week. Sorry, week 6 would be the bye week. But we also agreed, I believe during our off-season video, we had discussed about Sam Darnold. And I remember so many people crapping on the fact that we got Sam Darnold, and I believe you and I discussed that. And I remember talking about, at least as far as I was concerned, that I did not think Sam Darnold was a bad quarterback. I said I saw what he did at the Panthers, and there was some success there despite the organization's failures. He went to the 49ers and looked pretty good.
In full display.
Yeah, he went to the 49ers, and then when he was playing, when Brock Purdy was hurt, looked good. I said right away that Sam Darnold wasn't going to be a bad QB. I thought he was a bridge QB. I thought he'd be a competent QB, and I thought he could lead this team to a potential wildcard playoff. I said that when we got him. I said that in the offseason thing. He's looking far better than even I thought he did. But the amount of people that didn't even think that what I said was even possible is ridiculous. And I'm starting to see now people being like, no one predicted this. No one predicted Sam Darnold was going to be good. Everyone said he was trash. No. Not everyone said he was trash. I still thought he still had an ability, and I refused to call him a bust like all of you guys did. So many people called him a bust, and I know, at least for me, I think you agreed with me. We did not want to call him a bust because he had so much potential, and he was on so many bad teams. We never saw his true potential.
I said I wanted to see him on a team that actually had good weapons and good stuff around him before I was ever going to label him a bust.
It's the same thing with Baker. I'll put it this way. There are players that you see play, it is literally the epitome of an eye test, and I hate saying it because it just is what it is. Everyone's got their own eye test, but I think you and I tend to have a fairly similar eye test. You and I both refused to give up on, say, like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, because we saw something that was potentially there based on the eye test. But in that retrospect, if we look at Josh Rosen, when we saw him play, you and I were both willing to just cut him out pretty quick because he just didn't pass the eye test.
No,
It
and
was clear
also
he
there
couldn't
was
read defenses properly.
and there was something about like he didn't want to, and I kind
Yeah,
of
it
feel
just
the
didn't
same
look.
way
Yeah,
watching when I've watched Bryce Young and Trey Lance.
there's just certain
there's
things.
something
Trey
there.
Lance, I'll say Trey Lance did look a lot better in this last preseason, but there
There's
might be still something there, but I don't think it's starter.
Yeah,
I think
no,
he will
but
be a
there's
good backup.
something when I try to watch him play that doesn't click. I don't like
Yeah,
it.
but Bryce Young, man, just
The problem I think with so many quarterbacks, and we're seeing it right now in Miami.
same thing with Mac Jones, by the way. Mac Jones, I've refused to give up on, and Zach Wilson, as much as he was not a good fit for the Jets, I'm still refusing to give up on because I think he still has something.
Currently, Mac Jones.
I think he still has something.
He
I think he'll
might-
be a game manager, but I don't think
Yeah.
he won't be like a star, but he'll be a game manager
Yeah,
somewhere.
he has to be in the right place in the right system, but he's a game
Yeah.
manager. He's not a superstar quarterback. You're not leaning on Mac Jones to win the game for you. But if you put him in the right system where he can manage the game, like the way the Steelers currently play, Mac Jones would
Yeah.
be friggin' awesome.
He would be actually okay good there.
He
Yeah.
would be really good for the way the
Yeah.
Steelers currently play the game, which is don't make any
Heck,
mistakes.
honestly,
don't
I'm
turn
not
the
gonna
ball
lie to
over.
you. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I'm the Browns right now, I'm going, hey Jaguars, you want
If there
what do you
was,
want from Mac Jones?
If there was somebody,
Like if they could make it work.
if there
because,
was
like,
somebody
Deshaun
who
Watson
could
is-
make that
you know?
work, it would be Stefanski.
Yeah. I mean, he's already trying to turn Deshaun Watson into a system QB who clearly isn't working. Why not get a guy who actually is a system QB?
Why not? Why not already start Jameis?
Oh, great question as well. From everything I've heard, everyone seems to love him in the building. I don't know why they haven't done it yet.
I don't either. I don't get it. I will
Yeah.
never understand it. You know where else might be interesting for him to go? Mac Jones.
I wouldn't say Panthers.
Detroit backup.
Ooh, Detroit, yeah.
Backup golf.
But they have Hendon Hooker right now, so
That's true. That's true. Maybe the Rams.
Rams maybe. Rams. Funnily enough, the 49ers just to learn.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I think it comes down to something that I heard Baker say, and it's something that I as a person kind of understand better now. And I'm pretty sure because you and I share similar views on stuff like this that you're going to agree with me on it. So many young quarterbacks get into the NFL and then they're pressured to or want to change who they are to fit the team and the mentality of their coach rather than just being themselves. Baker attempted to get rid of some of his moxie because people said that he was too cocky, too arrogant, and it wasn't working. And so he tried to tone himself down to fit the Browns. We saw how that worked. He tried to tone himself down to fit the Panthers. That didn't work. It wasn't, he said it was when he went to LA and met with McVay, and McVay said, I want you to be you. Go out and be you. Do you. Don't worry about what anybody else wants you to be. You can't play as somebody else. You have to play as Baker Mayfield. That's when he went into Tampa the next year, and he just said, I'm going to be Baker. I'm not going to attempt to be someone that I am not. And ever since then, he's balled out. And
Well,
I think probably if Darnold probably got the same advice from Shanahan, I would guess.
Well, the one thing I've been noticing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to hold true so far. Not universally true, but it does seem to be showing more and more signs of progress as far as head coaches are concerned. I'm starting to see more and more head coaches, specifically younger head coaches, though not to say that the older ones aren't learning from the younger ones, as we'll get to in a second. Young head coaches like Sean McVay, KOC, Kevin Stefanski, Mike McDaniels, like they've been showing that it isn't about the QB in your system. It's about fitting your system to the QB. You see what I'm saying? It's about what the QB can do, knowing what your QB can do, knowing what he does, knowing what he likes to play, and fitting your system around them. And all of those guys I've just listed have proven success at doing that. For example, the Browns with Kevin Stefanski, I promise you, if he was the coach the entire time Baker was there, Baker would still probably be with the Browns.
I would imagine so. Yes.
Um, I look at obviously, Tua. Before, as much as I don't want to throw Brian Flores under the bus, it obviously wasn't working. But you look at Mike McDaniel immediately, now it's working. He looks good. Everyone was even doubting him.
Mike McDaniel.
Oh, he's not perfect, obviously.
No,
I'm not saying he is.
The problem that I'm having with it, real quick, because you are right, it's that as much as you could say that about Mike, you can't say that about Mike. And it's because if you look at the way the backups have attempted to play since Tua went down, they've tried to play like Tua because apparently that's how Mike McDaniel wants them to play. But the only person that can be Tua is Tua. He's not.
Well, I was gonna say, so the problem with McDaniel at that point is that he's built the system to be around Tua because that's the way it is, and he wants his system QBs behind that to be able to mimic some of that. And I understand that obviously
that's
not going to always work. And it is up to Mike McDaniel to have to be able to adjust that. Now, granted, he's probably looking at it thinking Tua is going to be back. I don't want to make that many adjustments for a QB that's not going to stick around, right? So there is some fine line walking there. So I don't know if I necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but I don't necessarily agree either. I feel like if we got confirmed Tua's out for the rest of the season, then you would see more adjustments, right? But you're not seeing those adjustments, in my opinion.
Every time Tua goes out, you don't see them as much.
No, but I just don't think in his mind that a couple weeks here and there is worth making those big adjustments. And that's on him. That's his choice. That's the decisions he's made. Regardless if we agree with them or not, I think that's what's happening. I don't think it's because he's incapable of making the changes. I think he just doesn't want to make the changes. So that's a different story altogether.
Okay.
But then, of course, on the same note, look at Jaden Daniels. Who's his coach? It's an older dude. It's a guy that you would have looked at previously and gone, "There's no way that's going to work." But he's learned and he's picked up proper offensive.
You want to get a chuckle out of it?
Well, I was going to say he's got a proper offensive coordinator that works well with him.
And his offensive coordinator is?
I don't want to talk about it.
You never would have thought it, would you?
To be fair, we do have to give credit where credit's due. It's working. I think some of that just happens to be a combination of the offensive coordinator and the head coach. We do have to admit that there is
could be that Cliff
a combination of factors, but
better coordinator than he is a head coach because he can't.
Based on that
head coach is one of those things where it's always late nights. You're always studying tape. You're always drawing up plays. All this stuff.
There's that. We also,
and some people just can't manage the team that way. But if you ask them, hey, just worry about the offense, draw up offensive plays. I want my offense to be awesome. Dude, they're on top of it. They don't have to worry about the rest of it.
Yep. There's some of that to think about, but there's also, I think, Rich Eisen brought it up when people were talking about. No, was it? No, it was somebody he had on the show. Maybe I forget. Was it Rich or somebody on the show? Now I'm forgetting. I've watched so many people that I forget which one said it. Regardless, somebody brought up a great point when they were bringing up Brian Flores potentially leaving after the end of the season, right, to get a head coaching job.
I believe that was Rich bringing it up. I think I remember seeing what you're talking about.
But the idea that he brought up is that head coach... So, people go into coaching for a couple of reasons. People that typically go in coaching love the game. They love players. They love scheming. They like coming up with all of the plays. They like making the playbook. They like seeing it succeed. They like doing all of that fun, quote-unquote, nitty gritty stuff, right? But when you're a head coach, you don't get to do that as much. You instead are dealing with the media, dealing with the politics, dealing with the front office, dealing with injury reports, dealing with contracts, along with the general manager, dealing with all your player relations. Like there's a lot more PR that goes into a head coaching gig that some coaches just don't like. And those types of coaches will find more success as coordinators. I think Brian Flores has shown that he's definitely a very good coordinator. Whether or not he can ever transition that to being head coaching is hard to say, but I think what Brian Flores has learned, and I think Cliff Kingsbury has also learned this lesson, which is if I am going to take a head coaching job somewhere, it has to be the perfect fit in my mind to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just take any head coaching gig just to get a head coaching gig now. Now I want to get a gig that I know I will have
And
success at, that
and
I will
and
do
the
well
other
at.
thing I like about Flores right now and what the Vikings do, they're really rehabbing his image
They
because
are, yeah.
they're allowing him to talk to the media and the media can see that he has personality. I think being
Yes.
around KOC has brought out his personality.
Well, I think there's some of that, but I think it's also just the fact that, like,
He's more relaxed.
well, he's more relaxed, but also the Vikings in general, as far as, like, the Wilfs are concerned and Quessy have been concerned, and they've always been that more, I wouldn't say necessarily laid back because they're not always, but they've always been that kind of welcoming environment in Minnesota for most years, and the only times that wasn't true is whenever we had a coach that was maybe a little pig-headed at times.
Both Childress
Um,
and Zimmer fit that
yes,
particular mold.
uh, unfortunately, but most of the time, from everything I've seen, as far as ownership and front office is concerned, have always been very welcoming and open armed in that way. Um, so I'm not shocked that they have looked at Brian Flores and gone, yeah, he's probably going to be a head coaching candidate. And rather than getting in his way and stopping that, we're going to actually let him speak at the podiums and put himself out there and let him do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody comes in and he goes somewhere, great. At least we know that at least, here's the big thing, they're banking on loyalty and trust. And I think that goes a long way. I think
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, uh, Brian Flores will think long and hard about taking any head coaching job because I have great success where I'm at right now. Everything's working, let alone if we make playoffs or even an NFC championship, right? Um, you'll have then the pedigree of like, look what I just did with this defense. What about another year? What could I do with another year? Rather than going somewhere else. Like there's going to be a lot more factors that will play into that because of that. Um, and so there's a chance, like, I mean, think about it. You and I, made jokes for the longest time about Bieniemy going somewhere, being like, dude, why hasn't he gone anywhere? Why hasn't he done anything? Dog's got mad loyalty for Andy Reid and has decided that if he's going to go somewhere, it's got to be the perfect fit. And you know what? He just hasn't found that perfect fit for him yet. That could be the same thing that happens with Brian Flores. That could be the same thing that actually happens with Cliff Kingsbury. He might just decide to stay at Washington because he likes playing and scheming for Jaden Daniels. He might just decide, fuck it, this is where I'm going to stay. I love this kid, right? And frankly, why wouldn't you? I mean, he's got more touchdowns than incompletions. Like that's ridiculous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I mean, it's an interesting thing to talk about, and it is fun. Obviously, we still have a lot of season left, but I like that the Vikings are allowing Brian Flores to, rather than trying to get in his way, they're letting him do his thing, and they're helping to show that he is a good dude, and that they're willing to go out of their way to I don't know, I guess just be good people. That's probably the best way to put it. They're just good people.
Yeah, more than likely. There are some people that are just they're trying to do that, and I can agree with that. I rather like it myself. Um, you know, they try hard, and I'm not gonna say anything bad about them. I guess it kind of is what it is. Anyway. All right. So one thing I saw, and I was trying to find this, and I can't find uh, the actual when he was there, or well, I know when he was there, but I can't. I'll have to look up a different thing. Anyway, I saw something on TikTok that made me mad.
Oh, okay.
Of course it did.
I don't use TikTok, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, and this was from do you remember Jay Gruden?
Yeah, I know who Jay Gruden is, obviously.
Not John Gruden, Jay Gruden, his brother.
Yeah, I know who Jay. Yeah, I said Jay Gruden.
So Jay highlighted, I don't remember what, it was the Lions and the Seahawks game. And he highlighted a play that the Lions made where it's like, they need to intercept that for the Seahawks. And this is why I don't coach anymore. No, Jay, the reason you don't coach anymore is because you're a sub 500 fucking coach who made one playoff appearance and lost in 5 seasons with the Washington Commanders, Redskins, whatever they are. No, Jay, the reason nobody's calling you is because you suck.
I don't really have much of an opinion on Jay. To be fair, that team wasn't necessarily good, and he didn't have a lot of good. I mean, I wouldn't say his front office was great either. At the same time, I think his coaching style is a bit old school, where it just is too much screaming and yelling, and players just don't like that as much anymore. Like, there's a certain amount that's expected of that, right? But there's a certain amount where it becomes a lot of players have learned, like, okay, you're just getting mad to get mad now. Like, relax, dude.
Yeah.
Zimmer
got, like,
is literally that kind of.
I've been starting to hear it from some of the old head coaches. Nick Saban, I'm not in, I got out because I don't want to deal with this NIL crap anymore. So you don't want to adjust. Yeah. You were only in it because you could control every aspect of your players' lives, and they couldn't go anywhere else.
Of course. I mean,
so you're basically admitting that you're a tyrant and a bully.
Well, I mean, listen, that's what college head coaches were. That's what let's be honest, that's what high school head coaches are to an extent. Like,
yeah,
it's been that way for a long time, to be honest with you. And you know, to a certain degree, I understand. I just think that people really misunderstand how much that gets played up. Like, you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's kind of normal. Everyone knows that. They're kind of the drill instructor, right? Like, everyone knows that's the thing. But I think so many people misunderstand of how far some of these coaches actually go.
Yeah, and that's
like
so.
And so that's why I think so many people just accepted it because, well, our team's winning. Who gives a shit? Whee! Like, you know.
So having been in the Army and knowing why drill instructors and drill sergeants are doing what they're doing, it's because you cannot be given toughness. You can be made to be mentally tough. But there's a difference between that and just out and out abuse. If you are like, so if you were really depressed in basic and you really had a problem, something came in letter-wise, something, and you showed it to your drill sergeant, they would have no problem taking you into the office away from everybody else and sitting down and talking with you about it and giving you life advice. Taking off the hat of, hey, I got to whip this guy into a soldier, and hey, I need to be a parent and an adult in this person's life right now. So that's something that I think gets overlooked. A lot of coaches will say things like, I'm not here to be your friend. And it's like, no, but leadership requires a lot of different things, dude. And sometimes putting aside the jerk persona is necessary to inspire loyalty. In order to lead, you have to lead from the front. You can't just yell and expect people to do crap.
Yeah. And I think and that's the thing, right? There's a fine line there, unfortunately. Um, Now, as far as like Nick Saban's concerned, everything that I've heard more or less corroborates that he walked that line pretty close. And for the
Yeah.
most part, most of his players will say he was actually a pretty good dude, but he just asked a lot out of his players,
Yeah,
which
because if you're
that's a
going to play
coach,
at Alabama and we're going to be the best, I expect the best out of you. If you want to start
Exactly,
from me and you say that we're the best, then I expect the best. And there's a
exactly,
way to walk that line and do it right, and then there's a way to
yeah.
walk that line and just totally step over it and do it wrong.
Exactly.
Um,
So from everything I've seen, Lincoln or not Lincoln, Nick Saban walked that pretty close to perfection, at least from everything I've
yeah,
seen.
yeah.
Obviously, once in a while, some hiccups here and there. For the most part, pretty good. However, there's one person that did it really well until it didn't work out because he tried to take it to the NFL and learned that that doesn't work.
Are you thinking Chip Kelly?
No, but that is one. That is also one. The one I'm thinking of, I believe, was he the coach for the Buckeyes before he went to the Jaguars?
Oh, Urban
Was it
Meyer,
Ohio?
Florida,
Uh
Ohio State, and then the Jaguars.
huh.
Yep,
Uh huh.
yep, yep.
And everything I heard is that he was very much a tyrant, and he tried very hard to even take that into the Jaguars locker. And most of the players were like, "Dude, this isn't college. Fuck off."
Exactly, and that's the problem when you get certain college coaches. They
If they
don't.
don't know that, yeah,
Yeah, they certain coaches are meant to be just straight up college coaches because
yeah.
the only thing they know how to do is control younger men.
And honestly, I think if I remember right, Nick Saban, like as much as he said he got out for the NIL, I think a lot of people also, if I recall, he even said the reason why he never wanted to go pro is simply because he wanted that control
Yeah,
that he
he
knew he
didn't have it
wouldn't
at the
have.
Dolphins. When he went to the Dolphins, he
Yeah,
immediately regretted it because the
yeah,
money was there, but he didn't have the control he wanted over things, and he couldn't
yeah,
construct the roster the way he wanted. And
exactly.
like I always felt Saban is more of a Belichick kind of a guy. If you
He
had
wanted
given him the
total.
same
Yeah, he
control
wanted
that Bill
GM
had had,
and
yeah,
yeah,
he needs to be GM and coach, at least in his head.
yeah,
Um,
yes,
and he needs to control a vast amount of their lives in order to get what he wants out of them.
what he wants. Yeah,
Because I think he's a very, I don't want to say perfectionist, but he's very
I mean he kind
detail,
of is. Yeah, he's
but
very
very
detail
detail
oriented.
oriented. Um, and I don't know, man. There's some guys
And
can
this
bounce
is
back and forth. Harbaugh seems
yeah.
to be one of those guys.
Well, we'll see so far. I mean, Chargers are still.
I'm not worried
I
about
mean,
the
they look.
Chargers because he started at Stanford, went to the Niners, made it all the way to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
left the Niners because he got into a
I'm
tiff
just saying
with
we'll see if he
management.
we'll see if I'm just saying we'll see if he can
Went to
continue
Michigan, won a
that
national
bounce back.
championship, and now he's back at San Diego. Or they're not San Diego
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm just saying we'll see
Los
if
Angeles
we'll have
Chargers.
that if the Charge will have the success the 49ers did. Like, will he be able to do the same thing? If he doesn't, then we'll have to be like, well, maybe the 49ers were just a better team. We'll see.
We'll
But
see. I'm going to give
I
him a
think
couple of years
he's.
because I think the
Oh,
Chargers
of
have
course.
issues.
They're not actually that bad off. I think the
No,
big problem is they just have injury problems
right now,
all the
yes,
time,
a
all the
huge
fucking
chunk
time.
of their offensive line is missing currently.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if they had them in,
Anyways.
they'd be a lot better off. They might have even beaten the Chiefs if
Honestly,
they had
they
their
almost had an
starting
opportunity
line.
there. Yeah,
They came close without a starting offensive line.
yeah.
So, all right. You said you had a surprise. Do you want to do that later, or
Oh,
is that
that don't worry, that'll get randomly sprung on you when the time's right.
okay? Well, in that case, let's go ahead. You ready to review?
I'm ready to review.
I'm ready to review. Oh, one more thing because it made me
Ooh.
mad.
Okay.
The Twins.
Another bad thing.
Yes, the Twins. The Twins have made me
Oh,
mad.
okay. I haven't been following anything the Twins have been doing, so.
Well, with about a month to go in the season, the Twins were, I believe, in first place, or at least in a playoff spot, in the Central Division of the AL.
Okay.
They needed, in order to keep it, to play 500 ball. That's it. They needed to split even.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't do that, and they failed to make a playoff spot. They just kind of collapsed.
I'm not super shocked by that,
No,
actually.
I'm really not either. As much as Chicago has been, the White Sox have been the worst team in history. Watching the Twins collapse feels like watching Minnesota sports.
It really does. It
Yeah,
reminds you that you are still a Minnesota sports fan.
it is. Yeah, slowly watching them
Oh,
slowly fall apart. They did fire 4 coaches, but not the manager.
well, of course not. Um, on that note, not that note.
Minnesota Sports Note.
It's not even Minnesota. On the news note, newsworthy, because it's more that I opened up my news app and was like, oh wait, that's right, we didn't talk about that. Uh, Devonte Adams is looking like he's going to be on the trade block at this point.
Oh yes.
Not only does he want out and has requested a trade, but it sounds like even the Raiders are like, fuck it, we're done with you. Go away. Go away. We don't even want to deal with you anymore.
There are several teams reported to be in. The 2 big ones are apparently.
Yes, all of them.
Rich Eisen said, "Your team here."
Yeah, for everything. Oh, you want one more? Your team here.
Yep. But
Oh, did you see the Sorry,
Dallas
I'll let you
quote?
finish.
Yes, I saw the Dallas quote. We'll get to that in a minute.
Why Dallas?
So the 2 leading contenders apparently right now are the Jets and the Saints.
Steelers are a minor third from what I've heard, actually.
Yes, but so the Jets obviously have Aaron Rodgers, which is somebody that Devontae is well acquainted with, knows very well. Would add a whole nother level to that. Oh, we'll get to that game. We'll get to that game. But it would add a whole nother level, and as Rich put it, is his passport up to date? How quickly can he get to London?
No.
Now the Saints have Derek Carr, who was his college roommate, and they played together at Fresno State and were really good friends. And apparently the wide receiver coach down in New Orleans is his old mentor, somebody that he respects a great deal. So those are the 2 teams that appear to be the leading contenders right now, with the Steelers coming in a third. And Dallas, let's talk Dallas for a minute. Dallas has stated they are not interested. They are out because they do not have the money. Dog, you are $32 million under the salary cap currently.
You have so much money.
you have more money than what you should have, and yet you can't come up with the money to pair CeeDee Lamb with another really great receiver. Now, I did hear from somebody that Dallas doesn't really need Devontae, because then what you become, what you become is the Dolphins. A pass-heavy team with very little run game.
That's what they have now.
It would be worse. It would
No, it
make
wouldn't.
that,
It'd just be the.
no,
It would
make
be
that problem would be made worse.
It allows them to actually run that offense because they can't do it now.
I don't know if that's what they're looking to run, but anyway, yeah, I totally understand.
Looks like it to me with having Zeke on that fucking running offense.
They really don't have a running offense. That's
my point. If you don't have a running offense and you're not going to pay your running back to do it because you're not going to bring in fucking Derrick Henry, you might as well just go full hard into the goddamn passing offense.
After watching the Derrick Henry stuff, watching Jerry Jones go, well, we just didn't have the money. Do you know where you would be right now if you had Derrick Henry?
That's my point. If you're not going to invest in the running game, you might as well just go full into the passing offense and just go, fuck it, we're going to throw 80 times a game and just see what the fuck happens.
I don't know that he wants to go full into anything right now except maybe a coffin.
Oh, God. No, his bed, but yes, fair.
Yeah, probably.
His bed sounds a little less morbid.
Sorry, didn't mean to go totally morbid.
But I was going to say, the Saints actually sound like they would even... I think the Saints are going to be a big front runner, not because of Derek Carr, like I made that joke earlier, but actually somebody brought up a really, really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. The Raiders are in the AFC. The last thing they want to do is make another AFC team good. Mm-hmm. So if there's another team who's willing to shell out a lot of money or a good trade, even just a second rounder, the Saints, being NFC, makes sense.
Because apparently the package they're asking for is a second rounder and a little bit of additional compensation.
Basically,
like a player, yeah. So the Saints, they could do that. And in fact, the Saints, you're going to laugh at me.
Not really. I mean, it honestly makes sense
because
to me.
the Saints actually... have a guy that I totally want, that I think would be great this year to trade for him, along with that second rounder. They signed him last offseason.
Taysom Hill.
Jamal Williams.
Oh, Jamal Williams. Yeah,
The
I can see
running
that.
back.
Yeah.
Trade them Jamal Williams because the Raiders don't have a running game. Jamal Williams becomes their number one back. He's a big beast of a back who in Detroit was a monster. Go ahead and let him be their bell cow back. You trade away Davante Adams. You get a second round pick as well with Jamal Williams. The Saints get what they want. They still have Kamara. Now they've got two really great wide receivers with Colston and Davante. Then you've got Derek
Chris
Carr.
Olave, can't forget that.
Dude, that automatically makes that team. That is a trade that makes perfect sense. Chef's kiss. You might throw. There might be some other compensation in there, but that would be the package that I would look at.
Also, by the way, apparently on the news of trades is apparently there was an interview that Kwesi did, who more or less the way he worded it is that he basically said that there's a pretty good chance the Vikings will be buyers at the trade deadline.
Oh,
so that's very interesting.
Yeah, no, but they should be.
No, they should be, but it's just very interesting because I'm kind of curious to see what they're looking at, what they're looking for.
I think
probably
the Vikings
defensive.
more...
I assume probably a corner of some kind. Probably another just shore up that defense a little bit more.
We'll have to see maybe something on the offensive line, but the offensive line is
pretty.
They've
been pretty good actually.
So far.
They've actually been overperforming in my opinion.
Like there isn't too much that I feel like we really need.
No, like I said, the big one is maybe a corner because of who's that one kid who's he's playing okay. He's just not playing as well as he could be.
Blackman maybe?
No, not Blackman.
Murphy?
The other, yeah, Byron Murphy. He's having some issues.
Yeah,
he's not perfect.
Looked at Byron Murphy. So the problem is, you are correct. While we are playing well at corner, we don't have the top shutdown corner we have is old, and that's Stephon Gilmore.
To be fair, he is playing well. I'll give him credit.
He's playing very well, but Shaq Griffin.
You want somebody who's
Murphy
a little bit more long term,
Some of the others, we need somebody else to play alongside that could be a long term solution at corner. And we were hoping that we had drafted it this year. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So buying at the deadline for teams that are selling on corners is probably something.
But it sounds like, and it sounds like from everything I've read, there might be a couple that might be on the market at that point. So we'll see.
There might very well be at that point. Yeah. Yep. So that's interesting. The last thing, if we're talking trades, basketball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we should talk about that. The Minnesota Timberwolves traded Karl Anthony Towns over to the New York Knicks. I don't know the full details. I know there were draft picks from the Knicks involved.
Yeah, I don't remember
coming back our way. And we got Julius Randle and another player. And there was a third team involved for cap reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah. I've been saying for a while that we needed to trade Cat. And that we should...
I'm in two minds about it. Like... He played so well, though, and it's so hard to, I guess it depends on what you get in the draft, but it just feels like it feels like what we got in response for him just doesn't feel like we really won, but I don't think we really lost either, so it's like a weird,
it feels like a break-even trade, but...
It just feels weird.
It feels like we cleared up salary cap.
Yeah.
And we broke more or less even on the trade, and then depending on what we get in the draft. That's what that kind of feels like to me.
And the problem I also have with the draft as far as NBA is concerned is in the NFL it feels like there's a certain amount you can kind of predict sort of who some of the top players are. When it comes to the NBA, man, you want to talk about an actual lottery? Fucking hell.
Especially lately. Back in the day, you kind of knew.
Yeah.
You know? Even back in the early aughts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You kind of knew. The year that both LeBron and Melo were drafted. Like, you
Yeah.
kind of knew.
You kind of knew, of course.
But
yeah.
now you like all the European players. The
Exactly.
does their game translate?
Exactly.
Some do, some don't. The college kids, does their game translate?
Mm-hmm.
Some do, some don't. You know, I think the reason why it's better in the NFL, why you have less issues, you still get busts, but it's less problematic, is because they have to play the 2 years of college football first, so you can see if what you're seeing is a mirage, one good season, or are they consistent? Did they get lucky?
Right.
You
And
know,
even then,
you get
sometimes
more
we'll
tape
see,
on them.
and even then, sometimes we'll still see a college player only play, actually one full year, and people will be like, "Oh my god, he's amazing," and then they'll bring him in, and it turns out he's got just the one good year. That was all he had.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And man, I don't get it. But yeah, with basketball, it's a total crapshoot in basketball.
It's a big crapshoot. The last decade or so has been like a major crapshoot.
Yeah. I mean, the top 1 or 2 picks, 1, 2, and 3, generally pan out.
Generally, there once in a while you'll get one that doesn't. But
You'll whiff on it, but more often than not, the top picks pan out. Like, I believe what's his name, Anthony Edwards. I believe he was a top pick. Totally panned out.
Yeah.
Who was the guy? The Spurs guy. You know who I'm talking about? The big, huge, fucking tall guy.
Oh.
I don't remember his name right now, but
Fuck,
yeah.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Yeah.
Wembanyama.
Yeah.
He looks like he's panning out. You know? So overall, your top guys generally look to be panning out, but anything after that,
yeah. Pretty much.
All right. You ready to get into this?
I guess.
All right. So, let's get into week 4 and what happened in week 4. So, scores.
A lot of things happened in week 4.
Yeah. We'll talk about one of them when we get to the game, but there's a player that is a top receiver that may be missing the season, but maybe not. We're not sure at the moment. He did get carted off in the game. We'll get there when we get there. Do you want to start? Or do you want me to start?
Listen, if I start, we both know what I'm picking. So I'll let you pick first in case you decide to take it instead.
No. If you want to take the Vikings and Packers, you can have the Vikings and Packers. But I will start with Thursday's game then, and I will take the Cowboys and the Giants.
You got it.
So, Cowboys at Giants. Final score, Cowboys 20, Giants 15. We both picked the Giants. We're both big losers.
You know what, though? They should have won. They were so close.
Yes.
And they
I
fucked it
will
up.
be straight honest with you. They utterly should have won that game. And if Daniel Jones could be accurate for 10 seconds, they probably would have won.
Pretty much.
He missed so many
and if there was
throws.
also, it also would have helped if one of their players didn't, literally concuss himself too,
Well, he didn't concuss himself until the last play of the game, basically.
No, he had, earlier on, like you can see where he actually concussed himself. He was going for
he didn't
the dive.
He didn't when he rolled over. We'll get there, but when he rolled over his neck and his head like that, he did not apparently concuss himself on that play.
No, but he definitely. Let's be on. You and I can be real about this. That may not have been a concussion, but he certainly opened himself up to be a concussion.
Oh yeah,
later.
He effed himself up on that.
Because if you watch the way he got up after that hit, man, he was not all there.
If you put all your
the
weight
fact
on
that
your
he got
head,
back
neck,
on the
you'd
line
probably
after
be
that,
effed
like
up.
the fact that they did a hurry up offense and he got up and still managed to get to the line looking wobbly as shit and still made a play after that, it's fucking insane.
Well, starting with Dallas. We're going to start with Dak here, who went 22 of 27. Hey, that's pretty damn good for Dak. 221 yards and 2 touchdowns, only sacked once.
Nice.
On the rushing side of things, Rico Dowdle. Who? Rico Dowdle? 11 carries, 46 yards.
Apparently, I've seen him come up a couple times. Apparently, people are saying that he is a really good, like, second, third guy kind of thing.
Yeah, but apparently he's their leading rusher now.
Yeah.
Zeke, 5 for 19. Hunter Lepke?
Who cares? He didn't do anything.
Two carries, 8 yards. CeeDee Lamb,
Didn't do anything.
trying to get him involved, 3 for 8. And Dak Prescott had 2 carries for -1 yards.
And you are being needy as fuck.
On the receiving side, CeeDee Lamb, 8 targets, 7 catches, 98 yards, 1 touchdown. That 55-yarder for the touchdown he was just gone. Absolutely gone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jake Ferguson, 7 for 49 on 7 targets. That's pretty damn good.
That's not surprising.
Jalen Tolbert, 3 for 3, 24 yards. Brandon Cooks, old-ass Brandon Cooks, 4 targets, 1 catch, 16 yards. Rico Dowdle, 1 for 1 for 15. Lepke, 2 for 2 for 14. And Zeke, 1 for 1 for 5. Jake Ferguson also fumbled and lost it.
Mine says he didn't lose it. That's weird.
Or no, he did not lose it. Pardon. He just fumbled. Okay. But I don't know who recovered it or where it went.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me.
Maybe he fumbled out of bounds then. In fact, I do think that's what happened. Is he fumbled and then it went out of bounds.
That's very possible.
So it was not recovered by anyone. It was just a fumble. It went out of bounds. Cowboys keep the ball. I thought, because if I remember right, it looked like New York had recovered it, but then it was determined that the player did not have full control until he was out of bounds. I remember watching that now. In terms of tackles, Eric Kendricks, 13 total tackles, 6 solo. Also, I will point out, this game, they had some problems as both Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence would leave the game with injuries. Lawrence did manage a sack before that happened. Parsons did not. In fact, that was the only sack that Dallas had all night. They had 1 interception. Amane Oruwariye?
Correct.
I believe I got that right.
Pretty close if you did.
And then kicking, Brandon Aubrey went 2 for 3 with a long of 60 and 2 for 2 on extra points. Overall, Dallas played a solid game, but they should not have won that game. They should have lost that game.
I agree.
Unfortunately, their counterpart, Daniel Jones, was 29 of 40 for 281 yards and an interception and 1 sack.
When are they going to ask him to stop throwing the goddamn ball so much?
I don't know, because we all know that Dallas's weakness is the run game.
Well, not this game, it wasn't.
No, because Devin Singletary carried 14 times for 24 yards.
Pretty fucking ass, I'm not going to lie. Compared to what Devin Singletary did last week, like, this is bad.
I think last week was a one-off for him.
No, the thing is, if you remember, this is why I know it's not true, because remember, last year he was on the Texans, and he was actually really good for them.
He was decently good, but also
he can play.
Hold on, the Texans' passing game was on point.
Yeah,
which opened up running lanes because people were worried about C.J. Stroud and Tank
that's what I was
Dell
about to say. Singletary is actually a really good running back when you don't load him in the back with them knowing that you're going to run the fucking ball all the damn time. Like, he's not an elusive back; he's a power back, and so when they don't expect it, he can power through a small short line and make big yards. But if they stack the box, knowing that you're running the ball, he's gonna have a hard time at it. Most running backs will, but he specifically has a really bad time with it.
But yeah, Jones underthrew receivers all night. Did not have the power to drive the ball.
No.
It was bad. He had a couple of guys wide open, steps on their receivers, steps on their corners, and underthrew it, and people would have to come back for it, and they'd miss it because that would give the corner of the safety a chance to make a play on it.
Yep.
Jones just doesn't have that arm strength. I feel like...
Well, he does. I just don't think he has the accuracy, because we've seen him throw big dots, big dimes down the field. He just can't accurately do it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's frustrating to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Singletary 14 for 24, Daniel Jones 4 for 3, Tyrone Tracy Jr. 4 for 2. Yeah. Receiving wise,
I mean, listen, this part makes me laugh. The team ran the ball 24 times for 26 yards. That means they barely got a little over a yard per carry. That's fucking awful.
Yeah. Malik Neighbors, 15 targets, 12 receptions for 115 yards and 1 concussion.
1 concussion.
Wandale Robinson, 14
God,
targets.
he was trying to... Again, I love watching Malik Neighbors because you can tell he's putting on the Superman costume and trying his fucking best.
It's just not enough there.
No, he's not the QB. He can only do so much. You know what? Giants, I've solved your QB issues. Just give the ball to Malik Neighbors and tell him to do whatever the fuck he wants with it. Because clearly, he's the guy you should be paying $1 billion to, and not fucking Jones, because God knows.
Wandale Robinson, 14 targets, 11 receptions for 71 yards. Slayton...
Still not bad, actually.
No, that was pretty good. Slayton, 5 targets, 3 catches for 56 yards. That's also really good.
Again, pretty good, yeah.
Tyrone Tracy Jr. caught 1 for 19 yards. Singletary caught 1 for 14. Look, they're spreading the ball around. They don't make the play when they need to. That is the biggest
They're not
problem.
finishing drives. That's the big one. They're just not finishing drives.
They're not finishing drives. Tyrone Tracy Jr. Fumbled, but Manhurts did recover it.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the defense, Tyler Newman. Hey, that's that rookie from Minnesota. 8 tackles, 6 of them solo. McFadden, 8 tackles, 5 of them solo. But Thibodeau had the 1 sack for them. Nobody had any interceptions. They had a couple of kick returns. Who cares? Greg Joseph. Hey, there's a name we know. 5 for 5 with a long of 52.
Hey, sometimes he's got games like that, man.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me laugh. He had all 15 points.
I think it's funny how they lost to a team that only kicked field goals to then only kick field goals and then lose.
Hold on. I'm going to make this funnier. Both the Giants and Jets played at home this week in the Meadowlands, and there was not one offensive touchdown by either team.
Nope. That was a bad game too.
Oh, we'll get to that game because I got thoughts on that. I might do that game next just because it makes me laugh.
That game was bad.
That game was bad, but it was so bad it was hilarious. The stat out of that game, there's a couple that made me laugh, which is kind of why I want to do it.
For real.
All right.
Are you good?
I'm good. Go ahead. Take the Vikings game. We all know
we're going to the Vikings game. Of course I'm going to take the Vikings game. I gotta take the Vikings game. I have to take the Vikings game. So, you and I both picked the Vikings to win. We were both correct. 31-29. However, I will say, after thinking about the game for a while, I don't know if you agree with me. You might not, and that's fine. We dominated this game. We just did. And here's why. The end of third quarter was still 28-7. We played all 3 quarters and dominated the shit out of the Packers. Then the Packers got a touchdown and got an incredibly lucky strip sack that allowed them to try to come back in this game. Honestly, without that touchdown and then the immediate strip sack following it, this game would not have been close. Well, it just wouldn't have been.
And I heard somebody else with a take that I kind of also agree with. If we didn't have those 3 interceptions against Love, we probably don't win that game.
Oh, of course. I'm honestly, I don't know if I agree with that because I think all of those things have to happen, right? So if if we don't have those 3 interceptions, but we also don't get strip sacked, we win. So the fact that we did get strip sacked, but our defense still stepped up enough to do what they did, and prevent Green Bay from fully trying to come back, I think that it makes sense.
I won't say.
And our offense did sputter in quarter 3 and quarter 4. There's no doubt about that. Our offense did. They were moving the ball, but they would have some minor errors. Like we were in the red zone, and Darnold threw that one pick. Not necessarily a bad throw on his part, just a great interception by their defense. And then the strip sack. I mean, those things happen, right? Ultimately, the way I'll come across from this, looking at it, is this is one of those. You know how there's the whole thing that people say about, you learn more from losing than winning?
Mm-hmm.
That's not always true. And I think this is one of those cases where I think actually the Vikings can learn a lot from watching this game again, despite the fact they won because they almost lost.
Yes.
Right? And I think for them, it's like, okay, we showed some vulnerability. Let's look back at the tape. What went wrong? What went well? Let's clear up some of the mistakes so that we don't make those mistakes that'll eventually lose us games later, right? So ultimately, I'm happy with this win, to be completely honest with you. And plus, getting the win in Lambeau Field out of the way early in the season, fantastic. That just means that, next time you play Green Bay, they're at home, and we've been playing really well at home, so I'm not worried about that game whatsoever, to be completely honest with you. But let's look at stats. Let's just kind of break it down now.
I will also point out that Green Bay was minus their top corner. I think top 2 corners.
No, just the one. Jair Alexander was out.
Alexander was out, but there was somebody else out too. And
yeah, I don't think it was a corner. I think it was somebody else.
And let's also not forget that we can definitively tell that Love was not 100% in this game.
So somebody made that point, and there were moments where I can see that. But let's not forget, somebody else brought up a really good point. Last season, early on in the season, like around this time, he looked exactly like this, where he would just randomly throw up balls that should not be getting intercepted, just throwing Hail Marys down the field, making mistakes that he shouldn't make. So it's hard. So don't get me wrong. I saw definitely some limping. I saw movements where he could not move as freely as he'd want to. But some of the mistakes with the way he was throwing the ball was very similar to last season.
It's not just about the movement for me. It's about the weight transfer. He wasn't able to drive the ball, because you cannot just drive the ball off your back foot alone. There have been a couple of quarterbacks that can do that. He was not one of them. You need to be able to transfer from your back to your front to get that drive.
Well,
and that
front
front knee is the one that's been hurt, and so he didn't transfer very well from one to
But you want to know what's funny about that? Is apparently historically, even in his college days, he would do that. He plays in that fashion, and even though it's not the way you're supposed to play.
Before you get into this, you know what else I found funny? He showed up to the stadium wearing a Favre jersey.
Wearing a Favre jersey, yeah, I was gonna say.
And then three interceptions.
And then of course, Perna's like, I was gonna say, Perna's like, well, I guess he channeled his inner Favre, his true inner Favre. All right, let's look at stats. And obviously, we had to start the Vikings because, goddamn, Sam Darnold, 20 of 28, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. And it was, again, a pick that wasn't even really on Darnold. I watched it back, and I'm just like, that's just a great defensive play. It's hard to be mad. That's going to happen once in a while. He played really well. Let's look at the rushing. In fact, he wasn't even on the ground a couple of times. Like, he only had 7 rushes for 15 yards, but, 2 or 3 of those scrambles were damn, he can move a little bit still. Jordan Addison got a 1 rushing attempt for 70 yards and a touchdown. Jet sweep! Let's go. That was great. That was fun to watch.
That was fun to watch.
Ty Chandler only got 3 attempts for 5 yards. And then Aaron Jones, revenge game, 22 attempts for 93 yards. Unfortunately, didn't get his touchdown for the Lambeau Leap, but did it after the game was over, because of course. And then let's look over at the receiving, because, of course, we have the ball getting passed around to fucking everybody. And that's the one thing I also say about this offense is that fun to watch, is that literally everyone gets to touch the ball, it feels like. Jordan Addison, 3 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown.
Welcome back,
Beautiful
Jordan.
pass. Looked fantastic. Justin Jefferson, 6 receptions, 85 yards, and one of the most amazing fucking
Oh, God.
touchdown catches
You know
I
what?
have ever seen.
Don't get it twisted. I
Oh, it was a
absolutely...
fantastic pass by Darnold.
I love the catch, but the pass, I
It
think,
was
was
a
even
dot
better.
right on his chest.
Just boop.
Like,
All he had to
you
do
couldn't have placed it better.
was this right here.
Yeah, literally couldn't have placed it better.
Nope.
But the fact that Justin Jefferson was also getting interfered with and did that one-handed, like, dude, get the fuck off me. That was great. That was great. Aaron Jones, 4 receptions for 46 yards. Johnny Munt, 2 for 15. Jalen Naylor, 1 for 31. Josh Oliver, 2 for 10 and a touchdown. Like, everyone's getting a chance at the ball. And even though Brandon Powell didn't catch his ball, man, he almost did. He laid out for one and almost got that ball. That was pretty good.
He should have had that.
So,
but no, I love it.
So, frankly, every one of our players is touching the ball, and you can just tell that, like, you can tell by watching the sidelines and just watching the players' demeanor. There's just something special going on. Like, they just, you know what I'm saying?
The window. They have decided to open the window for Hawkinson's return on Friday.
Oh, yep.
So this team's
We'll
only going
see
to
how
get
that
better.
goes.
They're 4-0 minus Hawkinson.
Minus Hawkinson, and even, we're down Jordan Addison until just today. So like, or like not today until this game.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard not to look at this team and see that there's just something special rallying around this team. They just refuse to give up. To be honest with you, and it's fun to watch. Sam Darnold did, of course, fumble the ball and lose it. And Jalen Naylor also did fumble the ball and lose it, unfortunately. Byron Murphy did force a fumble, but I don't think we recovered it.
I don't remember.
Doesn't look like it. However, Shaquille Griffin and Camu Grieger-Hill and Byron Murphy each had an interception off of Jordan Love, which is fantastic.
I thought Shaq Griffin had one.
That's what I said. Shaquille Griffin is Shaq Griffin. Yeah, Shaquille Griffin's his full name. Now let's look at sacks
Griffin
because that's another.
Was hilarious.
That one was great.
Because it went through the hands of 2 Green Bay receivers.
Right in his. He's just like, oh shit.
Yeah, it was like it went through 2 different sets of hands to the Green Bay receivers. Neither one of them could get a handle on it, and he just went bloop. Thank you.
It like blopped right in his hands. He's like, oh, okay, I guess we're going. Patrick Jones II is the only one that ended up with a sack on the night, surprisingly enough.
Another one for him. That dude has been a monster this year.
Oh, yeah. I think has he had a sack every game now at this point? I think he has, right?
At least multiples every game. I want to say he's at like 5 in 4 games or something.
Yeah, he's playing really well. Let's look at kicking. Will Reichard, 1 for 1, and all 4 of his extra points were good. Fantastic. We had Myles Gaskin returning kickoffs. He returned 2 for a long of 26. And punting, we had Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell returning punts. Brandon Powell returned his for 10, and obviously Jalen Naylor, as we fully well am aware, muffed that one punt. Let's not
5 in 4 games. That ties him for 3rd in the league.
Yep. So he's doing pretty well. So overall, like, really good stats for Minnesota. I'm very happy with how they performed, actually. Like, despite the fourth quarter and how that went, I think there was just a lot of things that went Green Bay's way in the fourth quarter. But I think, in reality, like, this game was not as close. This is one of those times where the game's not actually as close as the score makes it look. Like, it really wasn't. For, like, 2/3 of the game, it was just a complete bitch fest slap. Like, it just... Yeah. It was enjoyable to watch, I'll say that.
Except for that muffed punt at the end of the first half. I was like, no, what are you doing?
That was just more like, I guess we have to give them points. I mean, we can't go into the halftime shutting Packers out at home. Of course not. We can't have that.
By the way, the guy he's tied with is Will McDonald IV. The 2 ahead of him, Kyle Van Noy from Baltimore with 6. And Aiden Hutchinson from Detroit with 6.5.
Yeah, I was going to say Aiden's on there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at Jordan Love now as far as stats are concerned. 32 of 54, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Literally channeling Favre. I'm going to throw the ball a lot. I'm going to get touchdowns, but I'm going to get picked a lot too. All right, let's look at rushing. Josh Jacobs did run the ball 9 times for 51 yards, which is actually really good. I think that's an average of 5 yards a carry, which is pretty good. Jordan Love only rushed once for 6, which makes sense. Jaden Reed had a rush for 2 yards, and Emmanuel Wilson had 8 for 27. Receiving, we had Romeo Doubs, 4 receptions for 39 yards. Josh Jacobs, 4 receptions for 27 yards. Tucker Kraft had 6 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown. And, of course, they have 2 guys that have been showing up despite Christian Watson not really being involved. Jaden Reed, 7 receptions for 139 yards, a touchdown, and Dontavian Wicks for 5 receptions, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So they still have a good receiving core. They just don't really necessarily have a star. Some people want to say Jaden Reed is the star, but like he's not good in contested catches. Like, he's good if he's got to step on a guy, but in a contested catches, he doesn't look as good.
He's getting a little better, but yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Christian Watson injured.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't playing.
No, he did play, but he got injured.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he got
Was
injured.
it very early on?
Early on in the game. That
So
first interception to Grugier Hill. To Kruger Hill.
Oh, gotcha. That's right,
When he caught that, his foot the knee got pinned up under, as Camus came down, Watson's leg was like wrapped around his on the backside, and as he came down,
I must have missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching that, going, "Oh, that doesn't look good." I think it's just a sprain from what we understand, but it was definitely enough to keep him out.
Fair enough. All right, and now looking over at fumbles, Tucker Kraft did fumble the ball and lose it. That was, oh yeah, that's right. That was like right on the sideline. Yep, I remember that. That was a big oof for them. Interceptions, Xavier McKinney, another interception. He's got 1 each game he's played, so he's at 4 now, which is actually
interceptions.
Yep, really good. He's playing very well.
As much as the Giants miss Saquon, they probably miss McKinney more.
Actually, surprisingly enough, yeah. Keyshawn Nixon has 1 sack along with Quay Walker, so they had a total of 2 sacks on Sam Darnold. One of them was the strip sack. I don't know if that was Nixon or not. Was that Nixon?
I don't know. I want to say that might have been Walker.
Yeah. Either way, pretty cool. Actually, let me scroll back and probably check on the forced fumbles. Nope, Keyshawn Nixon was the one that forced the fumble.
Okay, cool.
So far playing well. That's good. Let's look at kicking. They might need a new kicker. Braden Narvison.
I forgot about that.
Braden Narvison, 0 for 2. Did get all the extra points at least, but could not kick a field goal to save his fucking life.
The first one that he kicked, he bounced it off the upright. Doink!
The upright.
Right off
and then
the
other one just went
wide
right.
Wide right. Poor bastard.
Yep.
And
no kickoff returns, and they had 1 punt return for 1 yard. So, yeah, overall, like, it was actually it looks fairly even, but like I said, up until the 4th quarter, it was pretty much a slap fest, to be honest with you. And that's why I don't think the game is actually as close as it appears. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, when they started earlier, I watched us go down and get the first score, and I was like, oh, yay! And then we picked him off. And then we went right in for another one. I was like, ooh, all right, jump out to that early lead. And then we went in, we stopped them, we got it back, we went in for a third. I was like, what's going on?
We're smacking Packers at Lambeau. This feels weird.
I'm confused. This feels weird.
I'm okay with it, but it feels weird.
Yeah, I'm okay with this, but it feels very weird. I will say, going back and watching Tom Drossie's first half meltdown was hilarious, and watching him get his hope up in the second half was even better.
And then getting it dashed again. Yeah.
Then getting it dashed again. Watching him rage about not having a kicker.
Yep.
All right. You done with that one?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
All right. Let's move on. I am going to do that game next because it makes me smile and laugh.
Fair enough.
Smile and laugh, mostly because it involves Aaron Rodgers getting his feelings hurt.
No, he just didn't play well.
No, he did not. Then again, nobody played well. So, we're going to talk about the Jets and the Broncos. And Broncos at Jets, we both picked the Jets. We were both wrong. The Broncos win 10-9. Now, best stat of this game, at halftime, Bo Nix had -7 yards passing.
That's right, I remember seeing that.
-7 yards passing.
He also had 2 receivers that had negative yards catching.
He did. He did. Do you want to know what the funny part is? Let's get into it. Denver's stats. Bo Nix, 12 of 25, which is under
Less than
50%,
half. Yep.
for 60 yards and 1 touchdown. Javonte Williams carried 16 times for 77 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin carried 9 times for 46 yards. Bo Nix carried 5 times for 3 yards. Cortland Sutton, 9 targets. 9 targets. 3 catches, 60 yards. And a touchdown. So literally, every other receiver on the Denver team averaged out for 0 more yards.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Cortland Sutton had all the offensive production in the receiving game.
And he still didn't earn a lot of points.
They had, so here's the best part. Again, they had 25 total targets, 12 receptions to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different receivers had at least 1 target. And they caught 12 balls for 60 yards. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Beatty fumbled and lost it. Riley Moss recovered a fumble. Defensively, P.J. Locke had 10 total tackles, 8 solo, and a sack. Cody Barton had 10 and 4 solo. Regardless, the other sacks, Jonathan Franklin Myers had a sack. Nick Bonito had a sack. Malcolm Roach had half a sack. And Jonah Ellis had half a sack. For a total of 5 on the day. They did not intercept him. They did not intercept ever. And Will Nuts was 1 for 2 on field goals for a long of 47 and 1 for 1 on extra points. Riley Dixon had 8, count them, 8 punts. Now to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, 24 of 42. He was just over half. 225 yards, 5 sacks for 41 yards. Braylon Allen, 8 carries, 34 yards. Aaron Rodgers, 5 carries, 26 yards. Breece Hall, 10 carries, 4 yards. What?
Not a great game, man.
Receiving wise, Mike Williams, 5 targets, 4 catches, 67 yards. Lazard, 8 targets, 5 catches, 58 yards. Garrett Wilson, 8 targets, 5 catches, 41 yards. Conklin, 8 targets, 4 catches, 17 yards. Breece Hall, 5 and 2 for 14. Yeah, this was a bad game. Wilson fumbled and lost. Michael Carter II recovered a fumble. Defensively, Tony Adams was their leading tackler with 11 total, 5 solo. They did not sack Will Levis once. They had 0 sacks, 0 interceptions, which is probably the reason the Broncos won.
Probably.
But yeah, Greg Zuerlein, 3 of 4 with a long of 40. Morstead, 7 punts for 316 yards. This game was a disaster from start to finish for both teams. Mm-hmm. I have never seen, in fact, I think the stat I saw was that Bo Nix is the first quarterback, is now the lowest yardage throwing quarterback to win a football game this millennium.
I wouldn't be shocked by that at all.
So, since like 2000. That's at least 20 years of football. Nobody has thrown for fewer yards and still managed to win. There's a YouTube channel I watch called Secret Base, and for a while they had The Worst.
Oh, yeah.
And they did the worst football game of all time. I think we just found one to top it.
Maybe. I could see it.
I'll make a case for it. All right, it's your turn. What are you taking? All right, so now that that's done, what game are you going to take?
Let's see here. I think I'll take on the Commanders-Cardinals game.
That's a fun one. I like that one.
That was a fun one. That's the other fun one that I really... There's a couple others on here that are pretty interesting, but this one, like... Whew. All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
So, the Commanders win 42-14.
You picked
Yikes.
the Cardinals. I picked the Commanders.
I still think the Cardinals can be good, but like, I didn't think the Commanders were gonna get this good that fast. Put it that way. Like
the Cliff Kingsbury revenge game.
Yeah, it really was. All right, let's look at stats. Jaden Daniels, 26 of 30, 233 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Dude's looking good. Rushing, Jaden Daniels, 8 attempts for 47 yards and a touchdown. Jeremy McNichols, 8 attempts for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brian Robertson, 21 attempts for 101 yards and a touchdown. They had 4 rushing touchdowns. All right, let's look at receiving. Noah Brown, 3 for 36. Zach Ertz, 3 for 22. Luke McCaffrey had 1 for 17. Terry McLaurin, 7 of 52 for 1 touchdown. Brian Robertson had 3 receptions for 12. And sorry, I might butcher this last name a little bit. Olamide Zacchaeus? Might be. I don't know. 6 receptions for 85 yards. That's actually pretty good. That's actually the most of the everyone on Washington, surprisingly enough. So overall, great running game. Even their passing game looks good. Like when you have this is like the true definition of a dual threat quarterback that people always fear is a guy that can not only run on you and get rushing touchdowns, but who can throw dimes at really long ranges and also get passing touchdowns over your heads.
He's figured out his passing game now. And
yeah. Now I'm worried.
My God, he's dangerous.
Like I'll say this: they might make playoffs this year, but I'm more scared of what they're going to do next year. To be completely honest with you, like if they take this and just build on it, and they don't get if no freak injuries happen, this team is going to be good.
Oh, 100%. Especially once they get more pieces for the defense.
Yep. Speaking of, let's talk about fumbles. No fumbles for Washington, but Dorrance Armstrong, Jeremy Chin, and Frankie Louvi had forced fumbles on Arizona. Doesn't look like any of them were recovered. At least none of them recovered those. I don't know if those were recovered by other people, but either way, the fact that they're even forcing fumbles is still like they're doing their job. Yep, they're
Yeah,
doing their
yeah.
job. All right, let's look at their defense. Jonathan Allen, Dorrance Armstrong again, of course. Frankie Louvie, of course. Darren Payne, Bobby Wagner, all either had a sack or contributed to a sack for a total of 4 team sacks on the night. So putting pressure on Kyler Murray is not an easy feat either, by the way, because he can move.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that their defense is still able to catch up to him is actually pretty impressive. Kicking, Austin Siebert was 2 for 2 for a long of 40 and 4 for 4 on extra points. And they had Olamide receiving a punt return for 16 yards.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, overall, this was like at first I was thinking that they did a lot more passing, but no, this was a ground and pound you into the ground game.
Like, yeah, 100%. They did pass when they needed to, but
oh yeah,
Robinson Jr. with over 100 yards rushing. I mean, yeah, they did a fantastic job running the ball all game long.
Yeah, he averaged 4.8 yards per carry. Jeremy McKinnell's was 8 for 68 and averaging 8.5. And even Jaden Daniels, 8 for 47, was averaging 5.8. So, like, they just couldn't get stopped on the ground. And even when they are stopping, I'm like, if you're averaging close to 5 yards a carry across all of your backs on the ground, like, that's only 2 downs to get a touchdown or to get a first down. So they're just easily moving the ball every single time. Like, if you can't stop the run, this was very much Washington going, we're going to keep doing it until you tell us you can stop it. And apparently, all too often, the answer was they couldn't stop it. So let's look at the Cardinals and see what went wrong. Kyler Murray, 16 of 22. Not actually that bad. 142 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. So he was pressured a lot, but he didn't actually make a lot of mental mistakes on his end, which is good. Rushing even wasn't bad for him. We have Trey Benson, 9 for 50. James Conner, 18 for 104 for a touchdown as well. And Amari DeMarcado, 4 attempts for 24 yards. Kyler only ran once himself for 3 yards. So the rushing game isn't even that bad. Like Trey Benson and James Conner being the dual backs that we were expecting, seem like they're performing well. So what went wrong? Let's look at their receiving. Greg Dortch, 4 for 38. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 catches for 45 yards and 1 touchdown. Elijah Higgins, 2 for 12. Michael Wilson, 3 for 38. Like, honestly, if anything, what this looks like, and I'm curious, I'd have to look at the time of possession, but did Washington just have the ball all the time?
Pretty much.
Like, and it feels like they were able, Arizona, it looks like they were able to move the ball when they had it, but like...
Well, what it is when you run the ball like that, the way Washington did...
Yeah, you're eating a lot of clock.
You're eating a lot of clock, and that's exactly what they did. They didn't want to give Murray, and what appears to be a decently high-flying offense, they didn't want to give them the chance for the home runs to beat them. Yeah. So they just ground them into the dirt with a mostly run-based offense. Keep the clock running, like, keep the ball moving, and don't turn it over.
That's kind of what it looks like. Trey Benson, DJ Dallas, and Michael Wilson had fumbles. Only Michael Wilson lost the fumble. Otherwise, Mario DeMarcado and I'm not even going to try to say your fucking name, recovered the other 2. Let me see. Hajalate Froholt. Dude, that name's fucking... It's literally spelled H-J-A-L-T-E.
Halate, I believe.
That's what I was saying. Halate Froholt. F-R-O-H-O-L-D.
Probably.
Froholt. Yeah. So he also was able to recover one of the fumbles. That's a hard name, though. Whenever you see H-J like that, I always have like a hard time being like, how is that supposed to be pronounced? All right. No, Garrett Wilson did come away with an interception. He was the one that did intercept Jaden Daniels. And Arizona's defensive line, I think, is what's probably letting them down the most. No sacks, and only one tackle for a loss the entire game. Like their offensive line just could do nothing. And I think that's maybe their biggest weakness. That might be the thing they have to shore up either in the draft or at trade deadline. They need defensive line. Like, very clearly. They Matt Prater didn't kick a single field goal, but he did have his 2 extra points that were good. And kickoff returns. DJ Dallas returned four kickoffs for a long of 39. And Amari had 1 for 16. And Greg Dortch received a punt for 4 yards. So yeah, this definitely looks like just not necessarily Arizona playing bad, just Washington playing that much better. And just using the clock to their advantage. It makes it look like it was just a complete smacking, but in reality, I think this is just more of a showing of time of possession more than anything else.
Yelda Froholt.
Yelda. Jesus.
Yelda.
See, there's no way I would have ever gotten that out of the way that name's spelled.
It's Scandinavian. That is
doesn't shock me at
Norwegian
all.
Scandinavian as hell.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's see where he's Danish. That total
Danish.
Yeah,
Yep. That checks out. That checks out.
You know what? Please do not come axe murder us, you barbarian. But we love you. Yelda.
Your name's hard to say. I'm sorry.
It is to an American tongue. I'm sure in his homeland
to a
that's
lot of
like
American tongues. Oh,
Sam.
that's probably nothing. That. Yeah, I was gonna say that's like nothing. Yeah. Dave.
John.
Guy.
Yeah, Yelda Froholt is how you pronounce it.
Yelda. Okay.
Yelda.
I don't think I'll probably remember that, but probably won't remember it, but I'll try. But yeah, it's definitely very much a game of time of possession and just Washington running it down their guts all day long. Not necessarily Cardinals playing bad, other than their defensive line from the looks of it.
Pretty much. That's my understanding of the whole thing. The Cardinals' defense just couldn't do anything. Yeah. All right. I am going to do a game that I want to do because primarily because of what their coach said after the game, and I disagree with him, so I want to make a point of talking about this game. Let's talk Jags at Texans.
Okay.
Final score, Texans 24, Jags 20. Texans almost lost this one, and then the Jags beat themselves at the end of the game.
Because of course they did.
We both picked the Texans to win. We were both correct. So let's talk about this one. I'm not sure what to say anymore about this point about Trevor Lawrence. 18 of 33, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, sacked once for 14 yards. 18 of 33. My dude, you're damn close to being less than 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And you overthrew a couple of wide open receivers.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad.
Take
Bigsby, though. 7 carries, 90 yards. Etienne Jr., 11 carries, 50 yards. Brian Thomas Jr., 1 carry, 13 yards. Lawrence ran 3 times for 5 yards. Receiving-wise, Thomas Jr., 9 targets, 6 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Yay! Christian Kirk, 12 targets, 7 receptions, 61 yards. Would have been more if you could have hit him on that wide open route. But you way overthrew him. Brenton Strange, 3 targets, 3 catches, 19 yards. Etienne, 2 targets, 1 catch, 10 yards. I believe they also had a backwards pass.
I think so.
Near the end of the game.
Yeah, I think so.
Lawrence fumbled. Daniel Thomas and Etienne. No, that was the Bills, I believe. Maybe.
Was it?
I don't remember. Somebody did. Thomas and Etienne both recovered a fumble. Defensively, Ventrell Miller had 11 total tackles and 8 solo. In terms of sacks, you had 2. Roy Robertson Harris and Jeremiah Ledbetter each had a sack. I'm looking through this, and Josh Hines Allen only had 3 tackles. I don't even see the guy on here, so I don't even... There he is. Trayvon Walker, 1 assisted tackle.
Mm-hmm.
That's really panning out for you. The guy picked after him currently has 6.5 sacks. Yeah, in terms of kicking, Cam Little was 2 for 2 with a long of 52 and 2 for 2 on extra points. I will say, before we get to the Texas stats after the game, Doug Peterson came out and he said, I can't execute the plays. They just have to execute better. No, Doug, you're right. You can't execute the plays. But if you see the plays that you are drawing up and calling aren't being executed very effing well, then your job is to draw up plays that your team can effing execute. And you're apparently not doing that very well.
Apparently not.
So that's the coach quote I wanted to get into. I was like, no, Doug, you're right. You can't execute the plays. But you can draw up plays that they can execute better. Figure out what your team is better at, and then draw plays up to take care of that. Ugh. I feel so disappointed in this team.
You should be.
I think they should be disappointed in themselves.
They should be.
All right. On the Houston side of things, C.J. Stroud, 27 of 40, 345 yards and 2 touchdowns, was sacked twice for 11 yards. Little bit of hero ball there, C.J., that they needed that from you. In terms of rushing, Cam Akers, 13 carries, 53 yards. J.J. Taylor, 6 for 18. Stroud, 3 for 17. Ogunbowale, 2 for 7. Stephon Diggs, 1 carry, 6 yards, and a touchdown. This was one of those snaps where we thought it was going to be a trick play and he was going to pass it. And instead he saw nothing open and was like, fuck it, I'm going to run it. That is his first ever rushing touchdown, I believe.
Is it?
I believe so. In terms of receiving, Nico Collins just proving that he is that guy. 12 catches on 15 targets for 151 yards and a touchdown. If I remember right, he is on your fantasy team.
He is. I still lost my week by exactly 1.5 points.
Ouch.
It was all because Okonkwo could not catch more than 1 pass.
See, I lost. I was close, and then Monday night happened. I had a couple of guys playing. He had Amon-Ra St. Brown playing. That murdered me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to that game when we get to that game. Diggs, 9 targets, 5 catches, 69 yards. Ogunbowale, 4 targets, 4 catches, 47. Dalton Schultz, 5 for 3 for 34. Stover, 1 for 1 for 27. Woods, 3 for 1 for 10. Yeah. No Tank Dell on here. Is he hurt?
Yes, he was ruled out.
Okay. That would explain that. Steve Sims did fumble and lose the fumble. In terms of defense, Henry To'oto'o, 7 tackles, 4 solo. The sack came from Eric Murray. Let's see here. They did not have any interceptions. They did have a couple of punt returns. Neither one is worth talking about. No kick returns. Fairbairn, 1 for 1 from 30 yards and 3 for 3 on extra points. Yeah. Houston literally needed the very last end of the game to win. 18 seconds left. Ogunbowale grabs a touchdown pass from C.J. Stroud. They literally needed all of that in order to win because they were losing 20-17 until that point. Yeah, like I said, I feel like Doug Peterson needs to figure out what his team and what Trevor Lawrence is truly good at, and then design plays to play to their strengths. I don't think he's doing that. I think, again, he's another one of. We were talking about that old school coaches, right? He's trying to get the team to fit his image rather than trying to draw up his playbook to fit the team. And it's that I don't think that works well anymore. So I feel like he's screwing up, and I don't know how much longer he's going to be employed by the Jags currently.
We'll see. They'll probably give him the rest of the season, to be completely honest, but we'll see.
I'd imagine so, but if they only win like 2 or 3 games, which is looking like maybe the thing right now, they are currently the only winless team in football. Both the Panthers and Giants have wins.
I know.
This is not how this is supposed to be.
No.
So, all right.
It's not going well.
It is not. Who are you doing?
Let's see here. Which one do I want to do next? So that was the one that I was thinking about doing next if you didn't take it, but you already did. Let's go with. You know what? I'll do it. I'll take the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Indianapolis Colts. Score was 24-27 in favor of the Colts. I do not remember who picked who.
We both picked the Steelers.
Ooh, okay. We were both wrong by barely 3 points.
Because we were both thinking if Richardson starts the whole game, the way that he throws, there's absolutely no way they can beat the Steelers' defense.
Yeah.
And then...
Turns out he didn't play the whole game.
We all had to go wacko for Flacco.
Yep, again. Flacco, man, he might be just that guy that just always just somehow resurfaces, man.
Did you hear the funny thing about that?
What?
They interviewed him after the game, and somebody said that Anthony Richardson.
Oh yeah. His mom is like 8 days older than
8 days older than he is, so I guarantee you he doesn't think I'm cool.
Yep. Hilarious.
Love it. Good job, Joe.
Also, I saw somebody also say, Joe Flacco, beat the Steelers like usual. Good on you. Still the owner of the Steelers.
Yes.
Kind of like how Aaron Rodgers makes fun of owning the Bears. Well, I think Joe Flacco can officially say he owns the Steelers.
The only way this would be funnier is if he played for the Bengals and beat the Steelers. Then he'd officially beat the Steelers with every single AFC North team.
Yep. That's true. I didn't even think about that. That'd be hilarious.
Come on now.
And then the Steelers finally pick him up and he just can't win them a game.
No, exactly. In fact, the time he comes in, he throws like 3 interceptions and loses them the games. Then he officially beat the Steelers as the Steelers.
As a Steeler, yep. All right. Enough of that. Let's look at stats. All right, we'll start with the Steelers. We'll look at the Colts after this. The Steelers. Justin Fields, 22 of 34, 312 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. He's getting better, man.
Oh yeah,
he's looking more confident. He's looking.
I don't even know if
so
Russell
much
Wilson
more
is
confident.
going to see the field this year.
I don't think so, dude. He's looking so confident at this point. It's hard to take him out.
Yeah.
He rushed for 10 times for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris, 13 rushing attempts for 19. Cordell Patterson, somehow still around in the league, 6 rushing attempts for 43 yards. I don't know how he still manages to find yards with how old he is. My God. As far as receiving, Pat Freiermuth, 5 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris, 3 receptions for 54 yards. George Pickens, 7 receptions, 113 yards. And Darnell Washington, 2 for 31. And Van Jefferson, 2 for 21. So overall, just they're playing good football. And that's the funny thing is that the fact they lost is that they just played a little less good football. And that's all it was. Like, they played still good. But when you have Justin Fields fumbling the ball twice and losing it once, hurts. And then George Pickens also fumbling the ball once and losing it also hurts. um, no interceptions on their end either, which is unfortunate. Let's look at sacks. Beanie Bishop Jr., Cameron Hayward, and Larry Ogunjobi had sacks on the night. Actually, technically, Larry and Beanie split, so there was only 2 sacks on the night for the Steelers, so they didn't actually get a lot. For a defense that's known for being really good at being able to pressure the quarterback, they didn't really get enough pressure out, it seems. Um, Pittsburgh's kicking Chris Boswell, 1 field goal, 50 yards, and 3 extra points all made. No kickoff returns, and Pittsburgh did return 1 punt. Calvin Austin had 1 reception for 30. So overall, they actually played pretty solid. Unfortunately, for them, solid was not enough to beat the Colts and Joe Flacco's magic today. So let's look over at the stats for the Colts. So Anthony Richardson, 3 for 4, 71 yards. He was actually looking pretty good. And then he got hurt with a hip injury. And as far as we know, there's no real details on it. I assume it's only a bruise at this point because I feel like we would have heard by now if something else was wrong. But they have not really done any updating on kind of what's going on with Anthony Richardson. So that's a little concerning for me. Joe Flacco, 16 of 26, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns, because that's what Joe Flacco do. Rushing, Adonai Mitchell had 1 rushing attempt for 10 yards. Anthony Richardson had rushed the ball 3 times for 24 yards at that point before he got injured. And Jonathan Taylor doing Jonathan Taylor things, 21 attempts for 88 yards and 1 touchdown.
My understanding with Richardson is that it is a hip pointer, or it was.
Okay, so
and it was just a really bad one, so they held him out of the game as a precaution.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, let's look at the receiving for the Colts. Josh Downs, 8 receptions, 82 yards, 1 touchdown. Andrew Ogletree, 1 reception, 15 yards, 1 touchdown. And Michael Pittman, 6 receptions for 113 yards, no touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor even getting in on it with 3 receptions for 20 yards. Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson did fumble the ball once, but did not lose it. As for the forced fumbles, it was Nick Cross and Chris Lamons that forced the fumbles on Pittsburgh. No interceptions, and it looks like Julian Blackman, Chris Lamons, Taquan Lewis, and Deo Odayan Bio. Oh, I can't say that. Odayan Bio.
Hold on.
Odayan Bio? Odayan Gibbo? Maybe it's Odayan Gibbo? Sorry. And Grover Stewart helped or got sacks on the night. So for a total of 4 sacks on the night for Indy, which is actually really good. Punting, don't need to really look at that. Kicking Matt Gay. Yeah, see, it's a weird last name. Doing. That's what I was gonna say. It's either Odaying Bingo or it's Odaying Abo. So it's kind of like a
Odaying Bo.
Yeah. Matt Gay looks like he was 2 for 3 for 35 and 3 for 3 on extra points. No kickoff returns, and Josh Downs did return a punt for only 5 yards. So overall, just a really close back and forth game. Joe Flacco just kind of doing his game manager thing, just throw to whoever's open, and that's what we're gonna do, and it works. And he made it work. Almost did lose the game. I wonder what would it have looked like with Anthony Richardson at that point, but I guess it doesn't really matter. You come away with the win. You come away with the win. So
absolutely, if you get the win, you get the win, and it's Joe Flacco sticking around to do Flacco things.
Yeah,
Wacko for Flacco. All right, I think I'm going to talk about a game I didn't do so well at picking. Let's talk Eagles at Buccaneers. Final score, Philadelphia 16, Tampa Bay 33. I picked Philadelphia. You picked Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Baker's Bay at this point. Let's talk about these stats. We're going to talk Eagles first. Jalen Hurts, 18 of 30, 158 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 6 times for 44 yards. Okay. You're seeing the effect that no A.J. Brown and no Devonta Smith has on this Eagles team.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else is stepping up. It's
Not really.
Yeah, it's bad. You're also seeing this problem. Saquon Barkley, 10 carries for 84 yards. 10. 10!
They didn't ask him to do a lot, you know.
No, but he's been carrying
They should have,
your
yes.
team. Yeah, you needed to get... Sirianni and Kellen Moore both need to get fired into the sun at this point. Because Kellen Moore is the OC.
Yes.
And everywhere he's gone, I've watched him and gone, what are you doing? He was the OC, I believe, last year for the Chargers. That didn't work out well. Everybody's like, oh, he's going to unlock Herbert. It also didn't help that Herbert got hurt, but, you know. And now they brought him into Philadelphia, and this isn't working. It isn't working. Jalen Hurts carried 8 times for 20 yards and did get a touchdown out of it. Dallas Goedert was about the only consistent weapon that he had. It was 8 targets, 7 catches for 62 yards. Yay! Saquon was 4 targets, 2 catches for 32 yards. Alcantara, 2 catches for 1 reception. 2 targets, 1 reception, 26 yards. Paris Campbell, 4 for 4 for 17 and a touchdown. That's his first touchdown since 2022. Johan Dotson, 4 targets, 2 catches, 11 yards. This was bad. Fumbles. Jalen Hurts fumbled twice, lost one of them. Cooper DeJean fumbled once and lost it. That was a muffed punt. And Fred Johnson did make 1 recovery. In terms of defense, Darius Slay Jr., 9 tackles, 8 solo. Nakobe Dean, 7 tackles, 5 solo. In terms of sacks, Brandon Graham got a sack. Josh Sweat had a sack. They did not have any interceptions. They had 1 kick return, 2 punt returns, neither went anywhere. The kick return, boring. Jake Elliott, 0 for 0 on field goals and 2 for 2 on extra points. This was a bad game for the Eagles. It looked, for a team that was considered a Super Bowl contender, they sure look like a pretender at this point. Buccaneers, though. Baker Mayfield, 30 of 47. Wow, that's a lot of passes. For 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. As we mentioned, sacked twice. Bucky Irving, 10 carries, 49 yards and a touchdown. Rachaad White, 10 carries, 49 yards. That's somehow hilarious to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield, 4 carries for 10 yards. Mike Evans, 14 targets, 8 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Because, of course, Mike Evans gets a touchdown. It's Mike frickin' Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin, 9 targets, 6 catches, 69 yards. Cade Otton, 9 targets, 6 catches, 52 yards. Sterling Shepard, 5 targets, 3 catches, 51 yards. Rachaad White, 3 targets, 2 catches, 35 yards. Are we seeing a pattern here? Trey Palmer, 3 targets, 3 catches, 26 yards and a touchdown. They went off in Tampa Bay, or Baker did anyway. Baker fumbled but recovered. Ben Still and J.J. Russell also both recovered fumbles. Leading tackler on defense, Levante David. Old Levante David. 8 total tackles, 5 solo, 2 sacks. Anthony Nelson, 4 total tackles, 3 solo, and a sack. Vita Vea, 3 total, 2 solo, and a sack. Logan Hall with a sack. Yaya Diaby with a sack. And that's all 6 of them. They did not have any interceptions. They didn't have any returns worth talking about. Chase McLaughlin was 2 for 2 on field goals with a long of 52 and 3 for 4 on extra points. And yeah, Tampa Bay dominated this game from start to finish. Baker is throwing that ball around with a lot of moxie, and he's got all the confidence in the world, as well he currently should have, the way they are currently playing. Yeah, Tampa looks like they could win this division easily.
Very possible, yeah.
Yeah. I really like how they're playing. Philadelphia, on the other hand, has to question what kind of team they want to be.
True. Very true.
All right. I don't really have anything more to say about that except fire Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore into the sun.
Fair enough. All right. Let's see what we got left here. Do that one. That one. You just talked about that one.
There's a couple of interesting ones here.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide which ones I want to do. I don't really want to talk about that one or that one. That one was a game that happened.
There's a couple of those left, too.
Alright, let's go ahead and I'll do the Saints-Falcons game. So we'll take a look at the Saints versus the Falcons. The score was 24-26 in favor of the Falcons.
You picked the Saints. I picked the Falcons.
It was a close game. It really could have gone either way.
Yeah, that's very true. If the Saints hadn't muffed that punt in the very opening of the game.
I mean, there's a lot to say about that. Let's look at stats. So we got Derek Carr, 28. Yeah, right. Derek Carr, 28 for 36, 239 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Rushing, though, Taysom Hill, 6 of 24 for 2 touchdowns because, of course. Alvin Kamara, 19 of 77 for 1 touchdown. Rashid Rice had 2 for 14, and Jamal Williams had 3 for 11. If we look at the receiving side, though, we have Alvin Kamara, 7 for 42. Chris Olave, 8 receptions for 87 yards. Rashid Rice, 8 receptions for 83 yards. And that was pretty much it. Like, he had his top 3 guys, and pretty much nobody else really saw the ball. Like, they did, but they didn't really do anything. Fumbles. Rashid Rice did fumble the ball once and did lose it. New Orleans also did intercept the ball once. Paulson Adibo?
Adibo?
Something like that.
Probably.
Adibo? Came away with the interception. Peyton Turner did have 1 sack on the night. And kicking, we have Blake Grupe, 1 for 1 on field goals. That was a long of 43, and 3 for 3 on extra points. Kickoff returns, we had Rashid Rice and Jamal Williams each returning a kickoff. Rashid Rice had a long of 33, while Jamal Williams had a long of 30. And Rashid Rice was also their punt returner for a long of 17. So overall, solid. They actually really had an opportunity here. Unfortunately, Derek Carr just not being able to find anyone in the end zone for some reason. Not sure why. Just for comparison to like what he was doing previous weeks, he's kind of continuing that hard ability to be able to find touchdowns for some reason all of a sudden. Let's look at Kirk Cousins, though. We have Kirk Cousins, 21. What?
Breaking news in the MLB playoffs. The team that was on life support until the end of the season and almost didn't make the playoffs, the Detroit Tigers, have just eliminated the Houston Astros.
Interesting. Would not have expected that.
I would not either. They won 5-2 today.
Fair
Again,
enough.
would not have expected that. This was a team that was put together with duct tape and wire and somehow made the playoffs and now have eliminated the Astros.
Hey,
Okay.
it can happen. It can happen, apparently. Kirk Cousins, 21 of 35, 238 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. I feel like we're repeating things. Tyler Algier, 8 rushing attempts for 60 yards. Bijan Robinson, Jesus Christ. Bijan Robinson, 7 rushing attempts for 28 yards. Why aren't we running the ball more?
I think Algier, honestly, let's be honest. I think Algier is a better pure running back than Bijan.
You know what's funny? Remember before they drafted Bijan and I kept saying Algier was, like really good? Why the fuck are we doing this? Yeah.
Yeah.
I stand my ground on this.
Maybe you should convert Bijan to a wide receiver?
At least make him more of a receiving back.
I'd make him a wide receiver that can run the ball sometimes.
Yeah, because use him as more like a jet sweep kind of guy once in a while. Yeah. Maybe. Receiving, Tyler Algier, 2 receptions for 20 yards. Drake London, 6 for 64. Ray MacLeod, 6 for 52. Darnell Mooney, 3 for 56. Bijan Robinson, 4 for 46. And Kirk Cousins did fumble the ball once, but it was not lost, thankfully. It was recovered by Matthew Bergeron. And Troy Anderson did intercept the ball off of Derek Carr. D. Alford had 1 sack on the night, and that was the only sack for Atlanta as well. And kicking, Younghoe Koo, 4 for 4 field goals, 58 long, 2 for 2 on extra points. And kickoff returns, Ray MacLeod had 2 returns for a long of 21.
That 58-yarder was the game winner.
That was for the game winner, yeah. I was going to say, what's really funny, though, is if you look at the stats, they're very, very even. Legitimately, these teams are very, very close.
Yes.
So, now imagine the Saints potentially getting another big wide receiver. And then all of a sudden, would that be enough? I mean, honestly, it'd be hard to say that might not be the tipping point for them to be able to try to take the lead over the Falcons, Yeah. And Tampa, yeah. So, it's that division. It's funny how bad that division has been for so long, and now all of a sudden, we have 3 potential teams that are looking like they're trying to motorboat each other for that first division. Mm-hmm. That division's actually kind of interesting in comparison to the last year and the year previous. So that's definitely a division that we can completely count out
this year, with Tampa, Atlanta, and New Orleans all really trying to boat race each other.
Yeah, it's a legitimately interesting division to watch. I thought it was going to be kind of boring, but they've kept it an interesting division.
Oh, very much so.
So there you go. All right, you go.
Oh, my turn?
Your turn.
All right, I want to talk about, you know what? I'm going to talk about an interesting game for weird reasons. Let's talk Rams at Bears. Final score, Rams 18, Bears 24. We both picked the Rams despite their mounting injuries because the Bears hadn't been playing very well. We were both wrong. And it does have to do with Caleb Williams kind of getting a little bit better every week. And also, the Bears finally finding a fucking running game. Which I don't know if that's because the Rams defense is that bad now or what. But let's talk about it.
Well, they are hurting themselves. So.
They are. The Rams are banged up. So, starting with the Rams, Matthew Stafford, 20 of 29, 224 yards, a pick, and was sacked 3 times. Kyren Williams ran the ball 19 times for 94 yards and a touchdown. Ronnie Rivers ran 6 times for 26 yards. Receiving-wise, Tutu Atwell, 6 targets, 4 catches, 82 yards. Jordan Whittington, 8 targets, 6 catches, 62 yards. Demarcus Robinson, 3 targets, 2 catches, 37 yards. Colby Parkinson, 7 targets, 4 catches, 33 yards. Kyren Williams, 4 targets, 4 catches, 10 yards. Matthew Stafford also lost a fumble. In terms of defense, Christian Roseboom, 11 total tackles, 6 solo. Quentin Lake had a sack. Braden Fiskey had a sack. Michael Hocht had a sack. Jared Verse, 4 total tackles, 3 of them were solos. So between Fiskey and Verse, that's still decently working out on the interior for them. I am not unhappy with that pairing, and I think they're only going to get better. They did not have any interceptions. They did not have a kick return. They had 1 punt return that's not worth talking about. Joshua Carty was 4 for 5 on field goals with a long of 52, and they didn't have any extra points. So, Nathan Evans only punted once. So, now let's talk Bears. Caleb Williams, 17 of 23 for 157 yards and a touchdown. That doesn't sound impressive, but what's impressive about it is that's a halfway decent completion rating, and he didn't throw an interception. I'll take that. I will take a game manager Caleb Williams over some dude that's throwing the ball away all the time. He was sacked 3 times for 24 yards. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Good job. That's the first time you've looked like a game-changing back since you got to Chicago. But in fact, that's the first time you've looked like a game-changing back since you've left Detroit. Roshan Johnson, 7 carries, 26 yards for a touchdown as well. Caleb Williams ran 5 times for 12 yards. Receiving, DeAndre Swift, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 72 yards. Wow. Swift really came through in this game for them.
Oh, yeah. Had a big game today.
He had a huge
game. I should say.
Yeah, he had a huge game on Sunday, yes. Cole Kmet, 3 for 3 for 34. DJ Moore, 6 targets, 3 catches for 22 and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, who is back, 3 for 3 for 19. And Roma Dunza, 3 targets, 1 reception for 10 yards. Caleb Williams fumbled, but did not lose it. Matt Pryor and Kyler Gordon both recovered fumbles. In terms of defense, Jaquan Brisker, 12 total tackles, 8 solo, 1 sack, and the interception. He was everywhere today. Or, well, Sunday. The other sacks came courtesy of Montez Sweat and Gervin Dexter Sr. So well done for the defense. They played very well. DeAndre Carter did have a 27-yard kick return. He also tried to return a punt, but didn't do as well. Cairo Santos kicked 1 field goal of 40 and was 3 for 3 on extra points. So, yeah, Chicago is now 2-2 and comes away with a win over a depleted Rams team, but nevertheless, it's a win.
Still a win, yeah.
A win is a win. And the NFC North currently does not have a team with a losing record.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly enough.
That's amazing to me. So, yeah. Williams is probably not going to win Rookie of the Year, but he is playing better. Every game, I think he gets a little better. And that's kind of what you want to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got food in my mouth. I fully agree with you.
You're fine. You're fine. All right, what are you going to do next?
It's a great question. Let's see what we got left that I am interested in here.
There's a couple.
Well, depends if I'm interested in them or not. See, that was kind of one I was looking at possibly, but I'll do this one. We'll do Bengals Panthers.
That's the one I thought you were going to take next.
We'll do it. So, Bengals and Panthers, 34-24 in favor of the Bengals. I'm fairly positive we both picked the Bengals in this game.
No. You picked the Bengals,
No?
I picked the Panthers. And you told me you're
I
probably
told you were going to regret
regret
that.
that
Yeah.
again. And I said, no, that's
Yeah.
because it's Andy Dalton now and not. You know what, though? They
I
did
mean,
not give up, and they played
no,
very
they
hard to
didn't
the
give
end.
up, and
So
they continued to play.
I'm not totally regretting that pick because under the right circumstances they still could have won, but they
They could
did
have,
play
yeah.
hard. So the
They did
Panthers
play very
do
hard.
play a lot better under Andy Dalton than they do Bryce Young.
Correct. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at stats. We have Bengals starting off. Joe Burrow, 22 of 31, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Yeah, Joe Burrow doing kind of what you expect. Cincinnati rushing, we had Chase Brown, 15 attempts, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'd say that's working. I didn't think they had a rushing game, but Chase Brown, at least in this game, showed that he can do it. We'll see if that continues going forward or not. Zach Moss even had 15 attempts for 51 yards. Receiving, though, because this is, of course, where Cincinnati's bread and butter is, we have Jamar Chase for 3 receptions, 85 yards, and 1 touchdown. T. Higgins for 6 receptions and 60 yards. Andre Lozafis, 1 reception for 29 yards. Zach Moss, 4 receptions for 27 yards and a touchdown. And Eric All, 4 receptions for 28 yards. It's a pretty good passing overall. Interceptions, it looks like Von Bell came away with 1 interception for Cincinnati. And let's look at their defense here. No sacks. No tackles for a loss. That is honestly shocking and very concerning. If your defense can't sack or tackle for a loss, the Panthers, I now have major concerns of you going up against any other team, to be honest. And it's the thing we've talked about before, yeah.
But it's worse, I think, on the Panthers side, who couldn't tackle anybody, which is really the reason that that the Bengals won. I mean, if you look, they couldn't tackle anyone.
No, yeah, they couldn't tackle anyone, yeah. Kicking, Evan McPherson, 2 for 2 on the long of 56 for 4 extra points. Kickoff returns, we have Chase Brown and Trayvon Williams each receiving some kickoff returns. Chase Brown was a long of 22, Trayvon Williams was a long of 22. Chase Brown was a long of 28, apologies. And then for punt returns, they had Charlie Jones, and he only had 1 reception for 3 yards. But overall, just a solid showing for the Bengals. It's kind of the game that you put it this way. They really needed to win the game, and this was the game they needed to win. And they did, which is good, but you now need to maintain momentum. You got to keep that trudging forward now. Now let's look at the Panthers. Andy Dalton, 25 of 40. That's not a great stat. I mean, I don't think I'd want him throwing that much, but again, you were behind so much in the game, I can understand being like, you just have to throw it. Still not great in my opinion. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. As far as running, though, they were able to do some of that. Chuba Hubbard, 18 rushing attempts for 104 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Legette had 2 for 10, and Miles Sanders was 6 rushing attempts for 32 yards. As far as receiving goes, it looks like Chuba Hubbard did receive 4 times for 17 yards. Dante Johnson making a return again, 7 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. And Xavier Legette, 6 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Mingo, only 3 for 24. You'd like to see him get involved a little bit more. But we'll see how that goes. Miles Sanders was 3 for 14, and Jatavian Sanders, 2 for 16. There we go. Words. No fumbles from either side, which is kind of fun. Xavier Woods did intercept the ball off of Joe Burrow. And as far as Carolina's defense is concerned, no sacks, but they did get 3 tackles for losses, which is an improvement over what the Cincinnati was able to do. Kicking, Eddie Pinheiro was 1 for 1 for long 48 for 3 for 3 on extra points. And no kickoff returns from Carolina, but they did have a punt returns from Raheem Blackshear after a long of 13. Overall, this, like I said already, this was a game the Bengals needed to show up and win. They did it. Was it convincing? Yes and no. It should have been more convincing than it was, but a win's a win in this league, and we'll see if that can carry the momentum into the next game or not. As for the Panthers, I think they're showing that it was definitely a combination of the team not being fully good, but also Bryce Young just not able to run this kind of offense with the amount of pressure that's getting put on him all the time. They needed somebody like a veteran, like Andy Dalton, who is used to being, who's been there, done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young just hasn't been there, done that enough, and for a young QB, that can be very tough.
Mm-hmm.
But Andy Dalton's obviously shown that he can do it. He's been there, done that. He's used to the kind of faster reps of the NFL, so it makes sense that kind of like it kind of makes sense if you look at it from the coaching perspective of what Canales had brought out, which is Bryce Young is still our guy of the future, but Andy Dalton's going to win us more games this season.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
I can see what they're saying. Yeah.
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 All
right.
I think I'm good.
All right. I will take a boring game and one I know you don't want to talk about.
I mean, there's only 3 of those left on Sunday, so I guess we'll see which one it is you pick.
Well, because I know you don't like talking about this team, so I will talk about them to spare you having to talk about them. Let's talk Cleveland at Vegas, because I know you hate talking about Cleveland.
Fair enough.
I'm not wrong, am I?
I don't necessarily hate talking about Cleveland. I just don't like Deshaun Watson.
Well, he totally
I actually like the coaching staff over in Cleveland. I think they're fantastic. I just think Deshaun Watson's a piece of shit.
Yeah, but he crapped the bed, so let's talk about
exactly.
it.
They could have won. This is another game they could have won, and they just didn't.
This was a game that they could not have won. They might have been able to win if Deshaun Watson wasn't their quarterback.
That's what I was going to say. They had opportunities if it wasn't Deshaun Watson.
So let's talk about it. The final score, Browns 16, Raiders 20. We both picked the Raiders, smartly.
Yes.
Let's get into those stats, though. Deshaun Watson, 24 of 32, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks for 27 yards. Okay. Have we seen enough? Have we seen enough? He's done. He's done. Washed. Sit him. It's over. It's over. You need to starting Jameis. And if the owner says no, that's not what we're gonna do, you know what? Keep starting him until Deshaun goes, I'm hurt again. Which you know he will sooner rather than later. Jerome Ford, 10 carries, 58 yards. Deshaun Watson, 8 carries, 32 yards. Dante Foreman, 4 carries, 2 yards.
That's not great.
The only guy worse than that was Breece Hall, 10 for 4.
True.
Jerry Jeudy, 9 targets, 6 catches, 72 yards. Amari Cooper, 8 targets, 4 catches, 35 yards. Jerome Ford, 7 targets, 7 catches, 27 yards. Blake Whiteheart, 3 targets, 3 catches, 13 yards, and a touchdown. Elijah Moore, 1 of 1 for 11. Jordan Atkins, 2 of 1 for 10. Foreman, 1 of 1 for 5. Deshaun Watson did fumble, but recovered it, and Rodney MacLeod Jr. recovered a fumble as well. In terms of defense, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, 9 total tackles, 6 of them were solo. The sacks both of them came from Myles Garrett. Because who else?
Right.
They did not have any interceptions. Now, they did have a couple of kick returns. Dante Foreman returned 2 for 56 total yards, and Gary Brightwell returned 2 for 36 yards. That is not horrible. That's halfway decent special teams play. And James Proche returned 2 punts for a total of 30 yards. Again, that's pretty good. That's a 15-yard average. You'll take that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of kicking, Dustin Hopkins was 1 for 1 from 56 and 1 for 2 on extra points. Yeah. They didn't play a horrible game, but they played just bad enough thanks to Deshaun Watson that they lost. I think if they'd had a competent quarterback in there, they probably could have won this game, especially considering the Raiders were without Devontae Adams, who had a hamstring injury, and Max XX Crosby, who was out with an ankle injury. They lost their top receiver and top rushing attacker, top sackmaster. However, Gardner Minshew still went 14 of 24 for 130 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and was only sacked twice. That is the definition of game management if I've ever seen it in my life. In terms of rushing, Alexander Madison went 5 for 60, Zamir White went 17 for 50, DJ Turner went 1 for 18 and a touchdown. Brock Bowers even got in on the rushing for 1 for 12. Tyreek McAllister, 2 for 11. Trey Tucker, 1 for 3 and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, Jacoby Myers had 10 targets for 5 catches with 49 yards. Trey Tucker, 6 and 5 for 41. Harrison Bryant, 2 for 2 for 21. Bowers, 3 of 2 for 19. Zamir White was the one who fumbled and lost it. In terms of defense, Robert Spillane had 12 total tackles, 9 of them solo. Isaiah Polamau had 1 sack. Charles Snowden had a sack. Janarius Robinson had half a sack, and Christian Wilkins had half a sack. The interception was Trayvon Morig, who had one interception for 16 yards. Tyreek McAllister did have 2 kick returns for 49 yards. That's pretty good. He also had 2 punt returns for 24. Again, that's solid. Daniel Carlson, 2 of 2 on field goals, with a long of 52, and 2 of 2 on extra points. So yeah, very even overall stats, except in the turnover department. Very sloppy play from Cleveland in that, and it cost them in the end. Like I said, they could have won that game. I think if they they could have survived either the fumble or, well, no, it was, it was the Raiders who had the big fumble that they lost. You know what? Let's be honest. Without that interception, they might win this football game.
Very possible.
Yep. So, this wasn't a great game to get through, and it's quite obvious that Minshew is not the greatest quarterback on the planet. He is a very good game manager.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 500 football team. I expect that to kind of continue the rest of the season.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that.
All right, who you taking?
Let's kind of see what we got here that I want.
There isn't much left.
Nah. God, both these suck for different reasons.
They are both.
Yeah, I guess I'll choose. I guess I'll choose the New England versus San Francisco 49ers game. Screw it. All right, Patriots versus the 49ers. The 49ers did win 30-13.
We
not
both
exactly
picked the Niners.
Not unexpected from anyone involved. But let's go ahead and take a look at the stats and see what they say. Jacoby Brissett, 19 of 32. Oof. 168 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Let's look at their rushing. Wow. Ramondre Stevenson, 13 of 43. Antonio Gibson, 6 for 12. Not great. Receiving. Oh boy. Antonio Gibson, 3 for 67. Jalen Polk, 3 for 30. Ramondre Stevenson, 4 for 19. Oh boy. Austin Hooper was 2 for 13 and a touchdown. Hunter Henry had 2 for 12. Wow. Not great offensively at all. Jacoby Brissett had 3 fumbles. only one was lost, but that's still not great. Ramondre Stevenson had one fumble and was also lost. Wow, that's uh, not 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 something you want to see. But Jabril Peppers came away with an interception, so there's that. No sacks on the night. It looks like. Oh wait, nope. Detroit Wise had one sack, and there was 3 tackles for loss on the game for New England. Nice.
I think my favorite thing I've heard anybody say about Jacoby Brissett is that he is
He definitely plays football.
what's the rookie?
Which one?
The quarterback for New England.
Oh, Drake May.
He is Drake May's airbag.
Pretty much. Everyone basically says that, thanks, New England, you're saving Drake May from the pummeling and giving it to Jacoby Brissett instead.
Mm-hmm. I think they knew that they weren't going to be very good this year, and they just went, you know what? We're going to wait until we can put a line together to protect Drake May, because we're not going to subject him to this.
Maybe. Kicking, Joey Sly 2 for 2 for long of 63, which is actually pretty impressive, and 1 extra point. New England did receive 1 kickoff from Jamichael Hasty for worth 1 kick for 30, and they had Marcus Jones returning punts. He returned 3 for a long of 15. Overall, their offense didn't do a whole lot, and their defense didn't do a whole lot. That's what I'm learning from this. Let's look at the 49ers instead, huh? Brock Purdy, 15 of 27, which isn't actually even that great, but didn't have to be. 288 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Let's look at their rushing. Jordan Mason, 24 attempts for 123 yards and a touchdown. Holy shit. Receiving, Brandon Ayuk, 2 for 48. Juwan Jennings, 3 for 88. George Kittle, 4 for 45 and a touchdown. Jordan Mason, 2 for 37. And Deebo Samuel, 3 for 58.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac Gorando fumbled and lost the ball once, unfortunately. And Brock Purdy did fumble the ball twice, but didn't lose either of them. So not a big deal. And they had Evan Anderson, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, and Sam Okowayanoa. Jeez, that's hard to say. All of them had 4 fumbles on the night. So that's big plays from their defense. Fred Warner came away with another interception. Classic Fred Warner. And their defense, we have Evan Anderson, Nick Bosa, Malik Collins, Kevin Givens, all contributing to sacks for a total of 6 on the night. Oof. Jacoby got hit a lot.
And Fred Warner is just being Fred Warner, man.
Yep, Fred Warner doing Fred Warner things. Jake Moody was 3 for 3 on field goals with a long of 41 and 3 for 3 on extra points. Isaac, God, why do I want to keep saying that? Isaac Gorando had 1 return for 23 yards off a kickoff, and Jacob Cowing and Kyle Jusiek each returned a punt, 1 for 7 and 1 for 8.
Yushevik.
Is it Jusiek?
It is.
I thought it was Jusiek.
Nope, Yushevik.
I keep hearing people say it. Why do I hear people say it the other way then?
Because they don't know how to pronounce those Eastern European names.
Well, neither do I. Overall, this was definitely the domination game that we expected it to be. This was the 49ers running over the Patriots. The Patriots going, please don't hurt me.
Pretty much. The Patriots won that opening day game by luck. They used everything up in that one game, and now they're just going to get pummeled for the rest of the season.
It kind of seems that way.
And yet they still might not wind up as the worst team in the NFL.
Somehow this might very well happen.
Yeah, it might very well. All right, I will take the last of the afternoon games. If you are done.
I am fully done. You're good, sir.
I will take the last of the afternoon games. We're going to talk about Chiefs at Chargers. This was a bad game. Final score.
Honestly, it really
final
was.
score: Kansas City 17, Chargers 10. I picked the Chiefs. You picked the Chargers. I do come away with the win on this one.
Barely.
But I should not have. Mahomes threw a very bad interception, and then I think the worst part of that was while he was trying to make a tackle and a stop, he actually wound up being the guy to hurt Rashee Rice's knee.
Yes.
So not only did you throw an interception, but you took out your top receiver as well.
Yes, they did do that.
There has not been an official report that his ACL is completely torn.
Yeah, but it sounds like from everything I'm hearing is that he's definitely going to be out for at least a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, there's everything we're hearing says that he's out anywhere from like 3 to 4 weeks to the season. But
yeah,
most people are now kind of erring towards, maybe it's not. Maybe it wasn't a total tear. Maybe it's just a sprain. If it's just a sprain, he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Which, that would be really good news for the Chiefs. However, Mahomes, 19 of 29, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. That was a very un-Patrick Mahomes game.
That's true.
He was sacked as well, 3 times for 17 yards. Kareem Hunt, 14 carries, 69 yards. Sam J. Perry, 5 carries, 14 yards, and a touchdown. Mahomes, 5 carries, 12 yards. Carson Steele, 2 carries, 6 yards. I'm going to be honest, they definitely missed Pacheco. But apparently he's out, I think they said 8 weeks. Because he cracked his leg. So, yeah, that's not good. Receiving, Travis Kelce has his first really great game of the season. 9 targets, 7 catches, 89 yards. Xavier Worthy, who will probably, hopefully, please God, step up in the absence of Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. 4 targets, 3 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. That touchdown was a 54-yard bomb. Noah Gray, 4 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards. Justin Watson, 3 targets, 2 catches, 27 yards. Hunt, 3, 2, and 16. Also, Sky Moore is going to have to step up now as well. Carson Steele did fumble and lose it. Defensively, Drew Tranquil, 10 tackles, 7 of them solo. 2 sacks from Chris Jones. They did not have any interceptions. And Mecole Hardman did return 3 punts, but none of them are worth talking about. Harrison Butker, 1 of 2 with the long of 37, and he went 2 of 2 on extra points. So not a great Chiefs game, and I'm now worried about them.
Understandable.
Chargers, Justin Herbert, 16 of 27, 179 yards and a touchdown, sacked twice. J.K. Dobbins, 14 carries, 32 yards. Gus Edwards, 6 carries, 19 yards. Quentin Johnson, 1 carry, 4 yards. That running offense never really got going.
Really didn't.
Receiving, Ladd McConkey, 7 targets, 5 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, not bad, Rook. Josh Palmer, 4 targets, 3 catches, 36. J.K. Dobbins, 4 targets, 3 catches, 30. Disley, 3 targets, 2 catches, 24. Quentin Johnson, 5 targets, 1 catch, 9 yards. Did you start him this week?
No.
Smart man. He did not look good this week. Fumbles. Christian Fulton and Justin Herbert both fumbled, but Gus Edwards and Elijah Molden both recovered. Defense, Denzel Perryman, 8 total tackles, 6 of them were solo. Tarheeb still had half a sack. Bud Dupree had 2 sacks. Troy Dye had half a sack. And that's where all their sacks came from. Khalil Mack did have five tackles. 2 of them were solos. Christian Fulton was the guy who had the interception, and he did run it back 29 yards. Dicker, the kicker, 1 for 2 on field goals with a long of 50, and 1 for 1 on extra points. So this game was a lot closer than it had any right to be. The refs also played a huge part in this. I do believe there was at the end of the game when Mahomes was throwing, I do believe there was a hold that everybody saw where the tackle literally chokeholded a guy.
Pretty much.
Wrapped his arm around his neck and was literally holding him back. Ref totally blind on that. Yeah. The refs have been particularly bad this season, and it's worse because with all the high def and the rewinds and everything else, you can see all the mistakes they make.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty bad. All right, sir, your turn. I assume you're going to do Bills-Ravens.
Probably. Well, yeah, I'll take on the Bills-Ravens one. We'll do Bills-Ravens. That was Sunday Night Football.
Dear
And,
God, was that game friggin'...
This was a game that happened. 35-10 in favor of the Ravens. The Bills had a rough game here. To be fair, I think it's their first loss. But this was very much a game that Bills came in it feeling good, and the Ravens came into it feeling they needed the win. And this is very much a game of, you can tell kind of which team wanted it more at this point. And that's really what it was. I don't knock that against the Bills necessarily, but it was very much the Ravens saying, we need this win more than you do. So, let's look at the stats, shall we? Also, who picked who? I think you and I both picked the Bills, didn't we? Or were you smart?
We
You actually
both
picked the Ravens.
picked the Bills, so we were both
Okay.
the losers.
Yep.
And I mean, after they won 40-10, why
It was hard
wouldn't
not
you?
to. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's look at stats. Josh Allen, 16 of 29, 180 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Mitchell Trubisky was in at 1 point, 1 for 2 for only 2 yards. Yeah, they could not get anything going on the passing game whatsoever. In fact, they couldn't get much going on the rushing either. Josh Allen, 5 for 21. James Cook, 9 for 39. Ray Davis, 7 for 11. That's pretty much it. They had 81 yards on the ground. Oh, and Ty Johnson was 1 for 3 for a touchdown. I almost forgot that. He did get the 1 touchdown they got. As far as receiving backs, it's only really 3 guys. Keon Coleman was 3 for 51. Dalton Kincaid was 5 for 47. And Khalil Shakir was 4 for 62. So kind of the guys you expected to be involved, but they really got limited by the Ravens defense by a lot.
My favorite was when they tried to run that stupid trick play.
Oh, God. Yeah. That didn't go out very well. Josh Allen did fumble the ball and lose it.
On that trick play.
On that trick play. Brandon Corrington had 1 fumble but did not lose it. Rasul Douglas and Dorian Williams each had a forced fumble for Buffalo. As far as that goes, let's look at sacks. Oh, look at that. 1 sack. Balin Spector had 1 sack. That's not great Buffalo defense. You're going to do, I guess, especially against Lamar, you have to put more pressure on him. They did have 6 tackles for loss, but it's just not enough, man. It's just not enough. Buffalo kicking. Tyler Bass, 1 for 2 for a long of 50, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Buffalo did not have a kick return, but they did have Brandon Carrington back for 2 receptions on punts for a long of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So not much happened there.
Mm-mm.
But let's look at the Ravens, who did a lot of things in this game. Lamar Jackson, 13.
All of them were pretty good.
Well, surprisingly enough, he didn't. Their passing game was kind of quiet, actually. 13 of 18, 156 yards, but he still got 2 touchdowns off of it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need to do much. But then when we go over here and we go, oh, Derrick Henry, 24 rushing attempts, 199 yards, and a touchdown.
That 200th
Almost
yard he
broke.
would have had if he hadn't fumbled it into the
Almost
end
200.
zone.
Yep, almost had the 200 yards. Justice Hill was 4 for 18, and Lamar Jackson was 6 for 54 and 1 touchdown. So they were able to just run literally all over their face. Receiving for Baltimore, we have Nelson Aguilar, 2 for 10. Rashad Bateman, 1 for 23. Justice Hill, 6 for 78 and a touchdown. And Derrick Henry, 3 for 10 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Lakely did also catch 1 ball for 26 yards.
By the way, I forget the stat, but they set it to a certain year, and since that time, Derrick Henry has 4 rushes of 70 or more yards, and all other backs in football have 4. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. Derrick Henry did fumble the ball once. Did not lose it. Lamar Jackson fumbled the ball and did lose it. Kyle Van Noy was what did force a fumble for them as well. No interceptions. Let's look at sacks. Odafo Owa, Kyle Van Noy, each coming away with sacks for a total of 3 sacks. Kyle Van Noy had 2. And they had 5 tackles for losses, so they were, again, kind of slowly smothering Buffalo. Justin Tucker had no field goals, but he did have his 5 extra points good. And no kickoff returns, but Baltimore did have Dante Hardy back to return punts. He had 3 returns for a log of 15. This is very much Baltimore doing the one thing they're really good at, which is running the ball. They just ran the ball.
They just ran him out of the stadium.
That's literally all they did all game long.
Yeah.
And if you can't stop it, you're going to lose. That's exactly what happens.
Pretty much.
All right, here you go. I'm good.
All right. I'm going to talk Tennessee at Miami. I'll leave you the fun game for the last. I'll talk about the last boring one. Because we know that Lions game was a blast to watch. I think that's the one both you and I decided to watch over Tennessee-Miami, and I think we both made the right choice watching that on Monday night. Because this game was a game that happened. We luckily did both of us pick Tennessee on this one over Miami, and we were both correct as Tennessee wins 31-12. Yeah, that was... Let's talk about it. The game started with Will Levis at quarterback, and he went 3 of 4 for 25 yards and an interception before attempting to run for a first down, which he got, but they didn't give to him, and then his team didn't challenge the spot, and he hurt his AC joint. And was then replaced by Mason Rudolph, who went 9 of 17 for 85 yards, and was sacked once for 8 yards. So how did they win? Well, let's talk about that, because Tony Pollard carried the ball 22 times for 88 yards and a touchdown, and Tyjae Spear carried it 15 times for 39 yards and a touchdown. Calvin Ridley also got a 10-yard rush. DeAndre Hopkins caught 2 balls for 31 yards on 4 targets. Boyd, 2 of 2 for 31. Pollard, 2 of 2 on 20. Traylon Burks, 1 of 1 for 13. Calvin Ridley, glad I didn't start you, 3 of 1 for 5. Are you kidding me? But yeah, that's kind of how that went. Literally, there were 12 receptions all game for 110 yards from Tennessee. Arden Key did recover a fumble. In terms of defense, Kenneth Murray Jr., 9 total tackles, 6 of them were solo. Sebastian Joseph Day, 6 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack. The other sack belongs to Harold Landry III. There were no interceptions from Tennessee. There was a kick return from Traylon Burks, which went for 21 yards. Jaquan Jackson returned 3 punts for 40 yards. That's not bad. I'll take that. Nick Folk, 5 of 5 on field goals with a long of 53. That's how they won this game. Nick Folk kicked them to victory. He was also 2 of 2 on extra points. Miami. Let's talk about that crap show. Tyler Huntley, 14 attempts, or 14 completions on 22 attempts, 96 yards. No picks, no touchdowns, sacked twice for 18 yards. He also carried the ball 8 times for 40 yards and did score. Jalen Wright, 9 of 32. Tyreek Hill ran it for 3 times for 19. Devon Achane, 10 for 15. Not good. Receptions. Jalen Waddle, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 36 yards. Tyreek Hill, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 23 yards. Tanner Connor, 2 of 2 for 15. And Achane, 3 of 3 for 14. Tyler Huntley also fumbled the ball and lost it. In terms of defense, Jordan Brooks, 13 total tackles, 9 of them solo, and a sack. So that's really the only major play they had. And Emmanuel Ogbah did have a pick. Braxton Berrios returned a punt, 27 yards. And Jason Sanders went 2 of 2 for field goals with a long of 56. So apparently they did try a 2-point attempt. It failed. And they got blown out 31-12 by a Titans team that had no business blowing anyone out this season. And didn't really even play that well. It's just the Dolphins played so garbage that that's what it ended up happening. So we were both right to pick the Titans over the Dolphins. The Dolphins look utterly lost without Tua right now. Again, we know he's coming back. The question is when, and how good is he going to be? And are they going to be anywhere near contention when he does?
Really, Bird?
Alrighty, your turn.
Alright. So we'll talk about the final game. Obviously, the final game, Seahawks at Detroit. Detroit winning 42-29. Not all that surprising, to be completely honest with you.
I picked the Seahawks, you picked the Lions.
Should have listened to yourself a little bit more there.
I should have. I really wanted to pick Detroit, but I was like, you know what? Maybe.
Mistakes have been made. But let's talk about it. Let's look at stats.
I regret this pick more than I regret my Panthers pick.
Let's look at stats. All right. Let's start with the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith. Ooh, I did not see this. Okay. Geno Smith, 38 of 56, 395 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Oof. And then you look at their rushing game and go, it looked good at first. So we got Kenneth Walker III, 12 rushing attempts, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns. But then you have Geno Smith.
That ridiculous rush.
Yeah.
Where they tried to tackle him.
Oh my God! He broke like 3 tackles.
2, and they flipped him one way, and he stayed on his feet.
And then he flipped the other. Yeah.
And then they flipped him back up and over, and parkour motherfucker still on his feet.
Yep. Dude was hard to tackle.
Yeah.
Geno Smith was 5 for 38, and then Zach Charbonnet was only 2 for 15. Receiving, we have A.J. Barner, 2 receptions for 27 yards and a touchdown. Jake Bobo, 3 for 30. Zach Charbonnet, 5 for 39. Noah Fant, 2 for 26. Tyler Lockett, 5 for 61. DK Metcalf, 7 for 104. Jackson Smith and Jigma, 8 for 51. And Kenneth Walker III again, 4 for 36. And the 1 touchdown they had came from, like I said already, A.J. Barner. Now, didn't even know who that is.
I will say that there was a 2-point conversion they attempted and was called incomplete. But if you go back and look at it, he was in bounds.
He wasn't, and I'll tell you why. It's something that they've addressed before, and it's something that they're going to readdress again. The ball, when he had possession, never crossed the line. It doesn't matter that his feet was in bounds. The ball never crossed the line.
No, he was in the end zone.
He wasn't.
End zone.
No, he wasn't. Not the 2-point conversion. He wasn't. The 2-point conversion one was the one that was right on the end zone line, and then they were mad about it. And that was that game, right? Am I thinking of a different game? Am I thinking of a different game? Hold on. Let me Nope, I'm thinking of a different game. I apologize. I have to rethink of that one. Which
This is
one
the
was
one
that
where
one?
he's on one knee, and he's right on the edge of the end zone. If you literally just type in Seahawks 2-point conversion to Google.
If it's the run, then he definitely still wasn't
No,
in
it was the
from
catch.
the
And it was DK Metcalf.
Maybe I didn't see that one. That might have been one that I didn't see.
Do you want me to send you the image?
No, I got it. No, this was a run. That wasn't the one you're talking about, though.
No, there's a catch right
Oh,
here.
no, that's that was the run after. Why did they not show the 2 points after that? Hold on. Oh, that one, yeah. That's the one you're talking about. Because
Yeah.
I saw the touchdown pass. I did not see the... I must not have seen this one.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me... So looking at it back, I think the reason why it was probably counted as a failed was because the knee looks like it might come down on the white at the time. So like when you're calling it on the field, no, but I'm saying when you're calling it on the field, right? The bang play.
And that's the thing that's why.
But this was also you could also argue looking at it that maybe he didn't have the reception in time. But this was definitely on the Seahawks to challenge this.
You can't.
And they didn't.
You can't challenge.
Yeah, you can challenge on 2 points.
I do not believe.
You used to be able to.
It's not. I don't believe they are reviewable.
I thought they could. Can you challenge on 2 points? I thought you could. Hold on. That's not the answer I want. Can you challenge 2-point conversion? I thought you could, but maybe you can't anymore. Or is that supposed to be something that the league is supposed to do?
I know it's not automatically reviewable.
So I thought something was saying. So I saw one thing that says the coaches could review it, and then I'm seeing another thing that says they can't. So I'm gonna assume that they must have changed it and they no longer can.
And that might be because in this season they put in some new rules involving some of that, like onside kicks and 2-point conversions, because they have the fair play rule now, which you cannot. There's a whole bunch of different things.
But that seems like that should have definitely been. If that wasn't okay, so I'll say this: if that wasn't one of those like if they couldn't challenge them, that definitely should have also been like, the league is supposed to also, if so, you know how the league always reviews touchdown passes, right? That's obviously one of those cases where, in my mind, the league should also be reviewing the 2-point conversions, but it feels like they only will review them if it was quote unquote complete on the field. But if it wasn't complete on the field, then there should be a way to challenge if it was completed on the field or not. It just feels like there should be some type of system or at least or the easiest thing to do would be make all 2-point conversions review. Just make them go to the booth.
The other thing,
it's not that hard.
The other thing about it is, say that's near the end of the game or the end of a period, and you've already used all your timeouts, you can no longer throw the challenge flag.
No, I know. I was just saying that the easiest.
Like if they're automatically reviewing all touchdowns, and you're automatically
they might as well just review all 2 points.
Time, you might as well go ahead and review the 2-pointers as well. I agree with you.
Might as well.
Currently, they are not.
Yeah. No.
It
doesn't seem like there's any review process for it. Yeah.
They should be. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Anyway.
Yeah, like I said, I can see how on the field, like as a ref,
Yes.
you might miss that. Especially because it looks like only one knee comes down, but if you were like looking, you would see that obviously that the thigh came down, or not the thigh, the calf comes down at the same time as well. So that's obviously the 2 points of contact. But then you also have to be like, okay, when did he have possession of the ball? Like there's like if you were to review that, obviously like in slow mo and watch it, you'd be like, oh yeah, he definitely had it.
He
But
definitely had that, yeah.
I can definitely understand as a ref on the field, like that's hard to say.
Yes, and you
Like
totally,
it's easy to
it's
miss.
so close, yeah. But I
Yeah.
think that does need a review, and I think that might be something that gets discussed post-season. Yeah.
Yeah, probably at some point. Anyways, fair enough. Back to what we were talking about.
Yes.
Now, I don't think that, based on the score, that obviously wouldn't have really changed anything.
No, I don't think so.
Sadly, I know at that point it was close, but ultimately by the game end, it did not matter. Let's look at the fumbles. DK Metcalf did fumble the ball and lose it once.
Yes, he did.
He did do that.
Right at the end, I think, of the first period.
Yep. Derek Hall, Draymond Jones, and Jarian Reed all came away with a sack, which is actually pretty good for their defense, for sure. Mm-hmm. And they had 4 tackles for losses. Mm-hmm. Jason Myers was 0 for 1 on field goals, but 3 for 3 on his extra points. Kickoff returns. D. Williams had 2 kickoff returns for a long of 28. He also was their punt returner, but only for a long of 1 on that case. So let's go ahead and look over at what the Lions succeeded in, because the game was pretty close until like literally the very end, and the Lions just went, okay, time to end this game.
I know what the Lions succeeded in, running the football.
Well, it wasn't even just running the football. Jared Goff, 18 of 18, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. And let's not forget Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1 for 1, 7-yard completion to Jared Goff for a touchdown.
Beautiful play.
It was a great play.
Gorgeous. Loved watching it. The best part was Dan Campbell learning about the 18 of 18 and then coming up on him and goes, I just learned about it walking up here and I feel bad because I gave the game ball to somebody else.
Yeah, he told me that. Yeah, I remember seeing that, yeah.
I love you, Dan Campbell.
It was really great. But the funny thing is, not only were they 8, but that's the funniest part. Not only was Jared Goff 18 for 18, their entire passing offense was 19 of 19 for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns. You cannot ask for a more perfect passing offense.
Okay,
literally.
The stat that I saw about this is the first time, I don't even know since when, that a quarterback has been perfect when throwing more than 11 passes.
Yes. Yeah. Now running, because that's the other thing. They were able to run the ball pretty well too. Jahmyr Gibbs, 14 of 78 for 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 12 for 40 and a touchdown as well. So they were able to just kind of do whatever they wanted, more or less. As we mentioned already, Detroit receiving, Jared Goff did receive 1 touchdown pass for 7 yards. Sam Laporta, 4 for 53. David Montgomery, 1 for 40. Tim Patrick, 2 for 52. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 45 and a touchdown. Jamison Williams, 2 for 80 and a touchdown. They were able to do what they wanted.
That David Montgomery reception for 40 yards?
That was great.
Oh my God. He made...
That was
great. I don't remember who that was. I think it was that cornerback they picked up last year.
I think so, but broke his ankles.
He didn't break his ankles. He ran that dude over. He caught the ball.
I don't know about you. That to me seems like breaking ankles, but
no,
you know,
he broke that dude's
I guess more like breaking
open.
knees.
He broke.
I was gonna say breaking knees, maybe.
Open. Literally, caught the ball, turned around, and just went, boom. It was like, get off of me, and then ran for 40 yards. I was like, oh, dude, that's an angry hit.
Kirby Joseph had 1 interception on the night. And for the defense, we have Aleem McNeil, Levi Onozawake. I'm sorry, I always have a hard time saying that name. DJ Ritter and Malcolm Rodriguez came away with sacks on the night. Surprisingly, we don't have no Aiden Hutchinson. Was he not playing?
No, he played.
Because it doesn't even show him having any tackles for losses either.
He did have some sort of injury.
Did he not play all the snaps, sir?
Yeah, they pulled him out for a couple of snaps.
Okay.
I
Um,
he walked over towards the sideline and squatted down, so they made him go out for a couple of plays.
Gotcha. Detroit kicking. Jake Bates didn't get asked to kick a field goal, but he did get 6 extra points as asked. Khalif Raymond had 1 kickoff return for 26 yards, and he also had 1 punt return for 6 yards. So all in all, Detroit just. I mean, Seattle kept it close for the most part, but Detroit just kept going. Oh, you're gonna score? We're gonna score 2 for every score you get. We're gonna score again. We're gonna score again. Like they just
So
kept.
Hutchinson did not have any tackles, but he
Yeah.
did have 3 quarterback hits.
Oh, okay.
So he was coming close to sacks, but they were
Never quite got him. Yep.
Yeah. And that Kirby Joseph
Fair enough.
interception was the game-sealing interception.
All right. Fair enough.
All right. Now that we've finished up the week in review,
What are we doing?
let's start with game balls, and then we can do what? Showers, Inferno, potatoes next week?
Don't forget our top 10.
Top 10 as well. Okay.
And then we also have to do our picks for next week as well.
Yeah, well, that's why I said next week.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So let's.
So where do you want to do the top 10, I guess? Do you want to do the top 10 very last? Do you want to do that before
10,
our game balls?
Top 10, I think we should do very last.
Very last? Okay.
Before we do, but it should come in between, like.
But before we do our next week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was
We'll do
thinking.
power
Okay.
rankings right before we do next week.
Okay.
All right, so
Fair enough.
let's start with game balls. Game balls. You first.
Jared Goff, you deserved that game ball, and you're getting my game ball today, boy.
King Henry. Game ball.
Oof, that's a great one. That's a good one. Jordan Addison, game ball.
Was on my list. I'm going to do one that's not on my list, but I discovered that should have been on my list while I was looking at this. DeAndre Swift, game ball.
Yeah, he actually had a really good game, yeah. Who's an unsung hero that I should point out here this week? Who do I want to do this week? I think I'm gonna go with a slightly weird one, but I think still deserves, based on how well they've performed, Xavier McKinney. You get a game ball, actually.
I am
Like, as much as I'm not a Packer lover, he has been playing well, and he deserves that respect.
I am not mad at that. I will take that all day, all week. I like that. Couple on here. Who do I want to give it to? You know what? Baker Mayfield. Game ball.
He had a good game. That's fair.
Yeah, that'll be my last one. I also had Jaden Daniels on there, but I gave him one last week. I haven't given Baker one yet this year. So, and I also have the Sun God on there.
Oh, Amon-Ra, yeah, that's right.
He also played very well. So,
Yep.
But I was like, you know what? DeAndre Swift has definitely deserved one the way he played.
Right,
and it's hard not to give one to Derek fucking Henry right now.
Oh, yeah, that was a great... If you didn't give him one, I was going to give him one.
Oh, yeah. Poof. All right. Showers. I'll start this one. Breece Hall hit the fucking showers. 10 carries for 4 yards? Dude.
That was pretty bad.
Dude. Go cool off. That was bad.
Aaron Rodgers, I think you might need to hit the shower. I think you need to rethink that offense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be mad at that. That does appear to be correct. Hold on, I gotta remember who he's the D coordinator for. Because he's on here, but I can't remember. I know I was mad at him. Oh, that's who he's the defensive coordinator for, I currently believe. Yep. Vic Fangio.
Oh,
Go hit the showers. Defensive coordinator for the Eagles, by the way.
Yep.
You got
Not going well.
shredded.
Oh, yeah. Jordan Love, I think you quite literally need to hit the showers. Like, I know it's not entirely your fault, but maybe you should have also recognized that you aren't ready. Like, that was maybe a mistake.
Maybe. Tyler Huntley. Hit the showers.
Oof. Yeah, it wasn't one of his prettiest games for sure.
No. That was not
I
a good
don't
game to
know.
watch.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Frankly, I don't care to remember it. Packers kicker. Hit the showers.
I don't care to remember it. I love that. That's fantastic. All right, you ready for some Inferno?
Oh, hell yeah, I am. Let's go.
All right, what you got?
First person in my Inferno, sitting in the fifth circle, dead center. Dead center. Mike Zimmer. Your defense is garbage. That's all I gotta say. It's really all I need to say.
My first person, only mildly toasty. So he's only sitting in the third circle of hell currently.
Oh, okay.
In the third circle of the Inferno, Zach Taylor. Dude,
Okay, fair.
you're not looking good. You gotta fix
Not a
this.
great start. Yeah.
It's a rough start. Fix it up.
To be fair, this isn't uncommon for the Bengals for some reason, but why do they have always weird rough starts? I don't know. All right. A good classic. I always have to put them in here. You know me. We're putting the refs in the seventh circle. I don't even need to explain myself. There we go.
Next one for me, Doug Peterson.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You're going into the sixth circle. Like I said, I almost bumped you down another couple of levels for that bullshit you said in your conference. But you're only in the sixth circle for now. I don't have faith you can turn this around, but I do have faith you're probably going to get fired before you get worse.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if they get in November and still haven't won a game? Because that will be a full year of not winning
Yes, they
football
are
games.
currently 0-10 since last season.
Yeah, like it's getting to close to that point, my guy. It's getting close.
Yeah.
All right, for my last one, sitting in my 10th fucking circle, you know him, we all hate him. It's Deshaun fucking Watson. Stop stealing paychecks. Get the fuck out of football.
I don't have anybody in the 10th circle, but he's damned fucking close. Pardon my language. Nick Sirianni.
Ooh,
You go into the 9th circle. Stop being a head coach. Like, your chair is on fire. You need to eject and just get out now. Go to the sun. Go to the light, Nick. Go to the light. I'm done with you. You are ruining what should be a good football team.
Honestly, on paper, it's a great football team.
Yeah, on paper, this is a great football team, and you are ruining it. Go away.
Boy, oh boy.
I don't know what else we can say about that.
Nothing really.
All right. All right. Hot potatoes. You ready?
Yeah, I'll let you go first as I think of some.
All right. All right. Maybe, just maybe, Trevor Lawrence is only an average QB at best?
So I'm actually going to disagree with that one. And it's because I've come to that realization that we talked about earlier at the very beginning of this podcast where coaching and destination truly matter for a quarterback. Think about Trevor Lawrence with KOC. That could be insanely good. So I think he could actually be a really good QB, just not in this system and not with this coach, because clearly something's not clicking anymore.
Okay.
So he's average in this system. I'll go
All
with that.
But to me, and the only reason I'm saying this is because to me, franchise or elite level QBs, which is what he's been touted as,
yeah, he's currently not living up to that. Yeah, he's not living up to the what he's supposed to be at the moment. Well, And I think that system does still matter because I mean, like, look at there's very few QBs that are quote unquote the traditional franchise QB that can make any system look amazing, and those quarterbacks just very rarely exist. Um, so we can't pretend that that's a real metric that we should really try to force somebody into.
Yeah.
Um, but he isn't living up to the hype that I'll agree with that.
Okay.
Um, all right, I got one. I got one. Maybe, just maybe, Sam Darnold really is just that guy.
You know what? I'll eat that. It could be. But what frightens me is what happens if we win the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold? Or
So
God forbid,
that
even if we don't win the Super Bowl, what happens if he does win MVP? Are we just going to let him walk at the end of the year?
well, that's one thing that was funny that I thought about it for a while, and let's be honest, there's two outcomes that can happen. Either Sam will be super appreciative of us giving him a chance and will be willing to take a slight pay cut, or because let's be honest, our cap room is not sitting well after paying JJ, we probably can't pay him if he does do that successfully, and we'll just have to stick with the rookie who we think could be another kind of Sam Darnold-esque player and let him walk somewhere. That might be the ultimately what happens. Obviously, the goal would be to try to retain him and everything, but legitimately, like, we just might not be able to pay him. If he legitimately takes us to a Super Bowl, there's no way we'll be able to pay him. If it's just an NFC championship, we might be able to actually retain him and keep him. We'll see. But I think ultimately everyone has said this is JJ's team. It's just going to be about when it happens.
Yeah. We'll have to see. I don't know.
Yeah.
If there's a fall off at some point, then obviously, okay, let him walk. It's all right. But
Exactly.
he looked good for a while, so he'll probably get a job somewhere.
Oh, for sure. I think at this point he's already kind of cemented he'll probably get another starting job somewhere at this
Oh
point.
yeah.
Like we'd have to have a tremendous fall off at this point to not get another opportunity.
All right. You know what? I'll give you an easy one.
Hmm.
Maybe Derrick Henry is the league MVP.
Through 4 games, I'm still not 100% going to bite on league MVP, but he is definitely in the top 3 discussion at the moment for sure. I'll give you that. I don't know if I want to full on be like 4 weeks in, he's MVP. It's kind of the same thing with Sam Darnold. Like he's playing MVP caliber, and Derrick Henry's definitely playing MVP caliber. Um, I just don't know if he's necessarily going to be quite yet, but he's definitely making a
He's one
very
of like
good.
3 or 4 players that you go, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely in that discussion, and definitely like if he continues playing like this, will definitely be MVP at this point.
All
Like,
right.
yeah. Um. All right. Next one. Maybe the Seattle Seahawks are not as good as their record says they are.
Nah, I'm going to disagree with you on that.
All right, fair enough.
I think even though they got mollywomped by Detroit, they really didn't get womped until like quarter number 4 is when it started getting out of hand. I think they played a very good game up to that point. I think they played it very well. I think they should be proud. Even in the loss, there was a lot of good things to take away from that game. Um, I think they're 3-1. I think they're pretty good, and I think they're still sitting in control of their division at the moment. The 49ers are obviously probably going to take that back from them at some point, because they've been banged up to all hell. But I think eventually they will overtake that division again. But the Seahawks are not. I think they're as good as their record indicates currently. We'll have to see. But currently, I'm not going to bite on that.
Fair enough.
Here's my third one, and I think you'll probably agree with this one. Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be so quick to throw the bust label on people.
Oh yeah, I mean we've discussed that before. You and I rarely like to call people straight up busts without
And this came
passing,
to
like
my
I
head
said.
because I was thinking about, obviously, our quarterback and Baker Mayfield, and maybe even Zach Wilson will get another chance somewhere,
Possibly,
and
yeah.
Mac Jones will probably get another chance somewhere, and
Yeah.
Bryce Young will probably get another chance somewhere. And if they all succeed at it, then are they really bust, or does it just take them longer to figure things out and have to find the right system or the right coach to create a system for them that works?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I 100% agree with you. Um, I think there are definitely people who we can, like I said before, we can look at and go, no, that guy's definitely not gonna make it. Like, there's just no way. Like, there's a certain eye test, right? But I think, and it's funny bringing up eye test because like so many like analysts and so many top commentators will bring up their own eye test and talk about it. But you and I being, you know, just fans, not necessarily, involved like heavily deeply in sports, our eye test is different. And
Exactly.
I think if they can pass our eye test, because we're not as scrutinizing as some of those people are going to be. If they even pass our eye test, okay, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, no, he's definitely got moments that look good. Let's see what he can do potentially somewhere else. But if you can't even pass our eye test, I hate to keep bringing it up, but Josh Rosen, like, you just watched him play, and it's like he just felt so uncomfortable constantly, no matter what team he went to. It didn't matter. Whenever he actually played, he did not look good. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket. He didn't throw very, very well. He didn't look like he had any connection with the receivers. Like, there's a certain amount of eye test that you look for as a fan or as a analyst or whatever you want to call certain people. And I think our eye test is pretty low asking, but if you can't even hit that low bar, like, okay, that's more likely going for me to look at you go, that's a potential bust coming. And that's what happened to Josh Rosen. I kept watching him, kept going, is he going to show me something? And once in a while he would, but not enough. There's too
Jamarcus
often
Russell was
times
one that I watched, and I
Jamarcus
went,
Russell, yeah. There's just too much you watch him. Like, once in a while he'd get that really good throw and be like, damn. But most of the time you'd be like, what the hell are you doing?
he had
Um,
all the arm strength and talent in the world, but he just didn't care enough.
yeah. And funnily enough, if we're going to talk about somebody that's in the league now, I mean, I'm gonna not. I'm so I could talk about Bryce Young, but I'm actually gonna move to Daniel Jones. He's a guy that you look at and you go, he's passing my eye test. He can play football, but it's not consistent enough.
No, it's not.
There's just
There's
too many
something
weird
wrong there,
issues.
but I can't.
Yeah,
I can't put my finger on
I don't want.
exactly
I'm
what
not.
it
I can't
is.
label him a bust because I think he still has the ability to play, but is he franchise quarterback worthy, especially the money that they're paying? Based on my eye test, no. But that's just me.
Okay. All right, you got one
Um,
more for me here?
yep, I got one more. Um, ooh, I got one more fun one for you. This
All
is
right.
just kind of a random throw out just to see kind of what you say. Maybe, just maybe, Malik Willis has earned himself a starting job somewhere.
I'll bite that. I'll bite that. There's a couple of teams I think that could use a quarterback like him. I'd like to see more, but I don't think we're going to. But
Probably not.
he's earned. If he hasn't outright earned a starting job, he's earned.
He's at least earned consideration to be looked at for sure.
Exactly. He's earned the right to at least compete for somebody's starting
Again, and
job.
by the way, talking about another person that people were like trying to label a bust way too fucking early.
Oh yeah. I think he's earned the right to compete for a starting job. At this point, if I'm Cleveland, I might be calling about him.
Cleveland, hell, if I'm the Raiders, I might consider it even.
Raiders, the Dolphins, maybe depending
Dolphins.
on Tua.
Yep.
There's a couple of teams that I think should be kind of making that phone call about now and going, hey,
Any chance?
What about Willis?
Yeah,
Huh?
you kind of interested?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't disagree at all. Um, you know what? I might even, if I'm Seattle, I might even make that phone call
I was about to say maybe, yeah, just to have him sit behind Gino for maybe,
for a
or if
couple of years, and
Gino
then
maybe doesn't stick around, yeah,
compete with Sam Howell for when Gino's
yep,
obviously
for
used
when
up. Yeah,
Gino's gone, yeah,
yep.
no, yeah.
100%. All right. Power rankings.
I think we're good to go on the power rankings.
All righty. You want to start?
I'll start it. Why not? I'll start the power rankings. And of course, for anyone that doesn't know, we always start just like anybody else. Start at the lowest and we work our way up. So, at number 10, I have a team that, you could argue maybe doesn't deserve to be in this spot yet based upon the way they've played. But I have more faith in them than I do in another team that's actually beating them in their division right now. So at number 10, I have the San Francisco 49ers. They have started a little slow, but I have more faith that they're going to ultimately climb my rankings in comparison to Seattle, who I'm going to spoil alert you now, they aren't on my list.
They are on mine, spoiler, but they're not much higher than this. And they are below the Niners.
Nice.
But they are not my number 10 team.
Okay, go ahead.
You're probably going to be mad at my number 10 team, but I have a very good reason.
Okay.
My number 10 team is the Houston Texans.
A little lower than I was expecting, but
Hold
go
on.
ahead.
I have my reasons. So, they're the only team currently with a winning record, but a negative point differential. Yes, a lot of that comes from the Minnesota game. But you also almost lost to the Moribund Jaguars and needed a literal last-second touchdown with 18 seconds on the clock to win that game. Yeah, you guys need to get it together. You're playing all right. All right is not going to continue to win you great games.
I'm not really super worried, but I can understand what you're saying. All right. So let's talk about number 9. Number 9, I have another team that you could argue maybe shouldn't be on the list based on how they started. But again, another team that I have a lot of faith in ultimately long down the stretch. A team that I expect to play well, who just played well this last week. Maybe that was the start of their actual season. Number 9, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I know that they're a little low, but at the same time, I do have to account for the fact that their record is the way it is. They started
that's
bad.
why they're not on my list. Is the Niners made it, the Ravens did not, because the Niners, I have to take into account that they've had injuries. The Ravens have not, and they've choked away a game to the Raiders, and they got beat by the Chiefs. Choked that away too because they had a couple of great shots at the end zone.
But that's honestly also why I have them on here, because even though while they did choke away the games, and that is very concerning, they clearly show that they could have and should have won those games, and that's also why I'm kind of leaning to be like,
Did they
okay,
choked
especially
away
after this last week that they just smacked the shit out of the Bills. I'm starting to wonder, okay, have they finally found that gear that's gonna?
I want to see one more of that before I throw them.
I'm giving them my list spot at 9. Yeah, but
I want to see one more before I do that.
All I'm gonna say is if you choke again, you won't be on the list next week.
That's why I'm taking a cautious approach with them for right now. I wanted to put them on here, but I couldn't do it. However, my number 9 team is the Seahawks. They are 3-1. They did just get mollywomped by the Lions, but they played really hard in that game. I think they played better than the score would indicate, because that interception didn't actually affect the game outside of it was this ceiling interception. Gave Detroit back the ball so they could just run out the clock. But yeah, I think overall they played very hard. They played very well. They just couldn't keep up with Detroit in the end. I think they're a much better team than people thought they were going to be. So for right now, yeah, I'm going to put them on the list, and I think
Fair
they're
enough.
probably going to keep on going for a little while. We'll see.
I have very little faith in them, but we'll see, I guess. Um, Number 8, I have, you know, I'm just gonna say it because I have no way to really put it. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 8. Their defense has been playing well. Their offense is doing just enough. Um, they're not really shocking me or surprising me like crazy. So I'm just kind of leaving them at 8 because just like it came down to the fact that I just found a bunch of other teams that I think are just better right now, and that's really the best way to put it. Is I just think other teams are better. That's not to say that the Steelers are playing bad. They are playing good. It's just I think the other teams are bad.
My number 8 team is the Niners. I think they've played well recently. They probably shouldn't have lost that game to the Rams. That was concerning. They got beat by the Vikings, but only barely. But they've also had to deal with a buttload of injuries. When they're all healthy, we see what they did. They absolutely mollywomped the Patriots, but that's the Patriots. So I think that once they get more healthy again, that they'll be fine. I don't think there's going to be a problem. Yeah, CMC is going to be out for a while, but it looks like they've already found a running back to replace him. Would not surprise me to see them trade him. I mean, I hate saying that, but it would not surprise me in the slightest. So yeah, no. They are 2-2, but they're on here, and the Ravens aren't because the Ravens have been healthy all year, and the Niners haven't, and yet they have the same record.
Fair.
All right.
All right. At number 7, I have another team that's been just playing really well, playing very solid, and I have a lot of faith in the team to continue forward. And that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 7. Baker Mayfield, bacon. I don't know what else to tell you. He's just playing well. The offense is working. Like, sure, they had that one stinker game, and I think that humbled them a little bit, but then they came back right out and smacked the fucking Eagles in the mouth as a response. Like, I think this is a team that's dominating their division. I shouldn't say dominating, but is winning their division and potentially can dominate it. I will see, but as it stands right now, they are looking really quite good.
My number 7 team. Some people might say that this is a little low, but I don't know what to make of them yet, and I've never seen them in this position in the what 2 years now that we've been doing this podcast. This is year 3.
Yeah.
And I've never had them in this position where I can put them even on this list. The Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels is playing incredibly well right now. Their defense is playing, I think, above what they should be. I'm impressed with this team from top to bottom. They've been absolutely playing fantastically. I think they're going to run away with the NFC East, especially the way the East has been playing. I think Washington is just going to run away with it this year. And that, you know what? They've never been in that position in a long time. Mm-hmm. We haven't been able to see them in that position in a long time.
No, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see somebody else at the top of that division.
I fully agree with you, which is why Washington's got my 6th spot. Like, I legitimately, I'm just stunned by this team. Like, they have played very, very well. They've made everything they played against look like a joke. Granted, I wouldn't say their quality of opponents has been staggeringly amazing, but we'll see. I mean, they're playing really well. I'm curious to see what happens when they face a really, really good team. I want to see how that plays out, but like, I'll say this. They are a team that has impressed me coming out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah. So my number 6 team, you're probably going to tell me is low. But it is the Bills. And it's primarily because they just got mollywomped by the Ravens.
I understand it. I think it's a. I'll say I agree. I think there's a little bit of recency bias there, but I understand.
There is a bit of recency bias, but like, I'm concerned because you went out and you womped somebody 45-10, and then you come back in and get mollywomped 30-10 or whatever it was. Yeah. I'm confused. I'm confused.
I get it. I
But
understand
okay.
it. I understand it. Um, at 5, I have the Texans. I put them dead center. Um, I think they're a great football team. Obviously, I do recognize that there is some questions as to like, are you just gonna have to motorboat all of your wins? Like, what's going on here? Um, but I still think that it's still early enough in the season. I think that they still have enough going for them. But for what that defense was supposed to be able to do and what they've done so far, I feel like it's not quite enough. I feel like their defense is just struggling a little bit more than it really should with the players they got. And overall, their offense is still cooking and doing what they have to, but I think their defense needs to do a little bit more of a
Needs
stepping
to
up.
step back up, yeah.
Yeah.
My number 5 is the Steelers. Again, really great defense. I've been enjoying that. And I've been enjoying watching Justin Fields be a game manager and win football games. Um, this is not what I would have expected Justin Fields to be when he came out of college. I would have expected him to be a lot more of a mobile back. But you know what? If this works and he's winning and he's not throwing interceptions and he looks like a halfway decent quarterback in this system, I say go for it. Um, I'm incredibly impressed with his. I think it's his mental attitude to adapt and change and attempt things that he may not have been comfortable with. But you know what? I got nothing to lose. That's got to be his attitude.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
number 5, right in the middle. We'll see how it goes.
Fair enough. At 4, I have the Bills. Um, I think they've been playing quite well. Um, I do think that I did drop them a little bit simply due to the to recency bias. They did get shellacked, and that is concerning. But I think they're still a fantastic football team. I think they came into this probably thinking that like, oh, Ravens have been playing well. We're not gonna have to try super hard. Either that, or the Ravens just, like I said, maybe they buckled down and was like, we need to win this game. That's what happened. So I don't necessarily hold that too much against them. But they did slip compared to where I was originally planning on putting them.
My number 4 is the Buccaneers. Um, I watch them and they're playing incredibly happy football right now. Like Baker Mayfield has brought a spark of joy to that team, and you can see it when he goes out and he plays. They're having fun. Um, that's the entire purpose. This team they're a blast to watch. Baker is having fun. The team is having fun. Obviously, his last year wasn't a flash in the pan. In fact, I think he's even better this year than he was last year. I think this team is the team to beat in the NFC South. I think that division is going to be fun to watch this year, minus the Panthers.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. All right, at number 3, I have the Detroit Kitties. They've been playing really well. They did unfortunately have a loss on their record, and that's the only reason they're pretty much at 3. They've been playing fantastic football though, and there's no doubt about that. They have had some stumbles here and there, but they're pretty close to a complete team at this point.
What do you want to bet our top 3 are the same? Because my number 3 is
Probably.
also the Detroit Motor City Kitties, the Lions. Again, playing really good football. All the things you said. Jared Goff has been playing really well. St. Brown. They've got probably the best running back tandem in football right now.
Oh yeah, probably.
And they're really a complete football team right now.
All right, so let's go to 2. But this is where we'd have our special segment that I have set up just for you, my friend. I'm calling this new segment Judge Matt. And it's my job to present a case to you and try to get you to buy the case that I'm selling. And we'll see how this goes.
If you're going to sell me the Chiefs at 2, you don't need to bother.
No. Well, I was going to say, just hold on, okay? The whole point of this is you being a judge, and I'm going to present the case to you. I don't want to know where your thoughts are before the case is over, but I want you to just listen to what I have to say. And mostly this is for entertainment purposes, because I think in the future, I think this segment can be very fun, because it's all about me just telling you my riff. Here's the stats I'm going to provide you. Here are the things. Here's the storylines I'm going to provide you. Do you agree with me, or are you just going to tell me, no, it's all hogwash, fuck off? Because you are now the judge presiding over the case. of why I have the Chiefs at 2 and the Vikings at number 1, and here goes
Hold on.
my case.
Court is in session.
Perfect. So here is my case. Let's look quite off the bat. Chiefs 2, Vikings 1. Here's the reason. Here's my case. Evidence number 1, quality of opponents. Vikings have beaten the Giants, the 49ers, the Texans, and Green Bay. Kansas City have beaten the Ravens, who've looked like they're pretty good. Bengals, who have been struggling. The Falcons, who have been and the Chargers, who have been So I'd argue the quality of opponents leans towards the Vikings. Fact number 2. Let's look at quarterback stats. Sam Darnold has 68.9% completion. Similarly, Mahomes has 68.6% completion. Very close. And that's pretty impressive. Sam Darnold, 943 yards. Patrick Mahomes, 904 yards. Sam Darnold, 11 touchdowns to Mahomes, 6 touchdowns. Sam Darnold, 3 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes, 5 interceptions. But here's the most fun stat. Quarterback rating. Sam Darnold, 118.9 rating. Mahomes, 89.7. I don't know. If you ask me, that seems like we have a pretty similar quarterback situation going on with a little bit better percentage overall, I would say, in Sam Darnold. A little bit more TDs, a little less interceptions, a little bit more yardage, a little bit more completion, and a better QB rating. But let's look at defensive stats. Vikings, 17 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 8 interceptions, 26 tackles for loss. In comparison, the Kansas City's defense is 8 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 1 interception, and 20 tackles for loss. So there's a little bit of a split there, but I would argue that the amount of sacks and interceptions the Vikings have far outweighs that because of the fact of turnovers alone, Vikings are winning on that front. And now let's look at just some fun extra stats to throw on, because of course we got to. And the one that I'm going to bring up is the one that everyone's probably heard by now and has talked about already. Vikings have only trailed in all of their games 3 minutes and 28 seconds, and no other team currently playing is under 27 minutes. That means the Vikings have led in 4 games in an unprecedented amount of time in comparison to every other team, which is absolutely insanity. That's not something you hear from the Vikings. Go ahead.
From the bench, the judge would like to point out that on the opposite end of that, the Miami Dolphins have led precisely 0 minutes.
Yes, they have. Precisely 0. Sam Darnold has thrown at least 2 touchdowns in every game this season while winning. No other quarterback has done that yet. And, of course, the final fun one. Dog's got the orange Viking beard. It's just meant to fucking be. That is where the defense will rest. What say you, Judge Matt?
This court finds in favor of the defense. We totally understand why you have the Chiefs at 2 and why the Vikings should be at number 1. Court adjourned.
Yeah.
You like how I went with that?
Well, of course. That's kind of what I was hoping for.
Now I need to get a gavel.
Yeah, I know. Just bump, bump. Get one of those powder wigs.
I totally would, too.
I know.
I totally would, too. By the way, I also have the Chiefs at number 2, and it's also because I'm now concerned with their injuries. Pacheco, Rice, etc. They don't...
Who else do we throw to now? Yeah, it's like Travis Kelce.
Xavier Worthy, he's fast, but is he good? We're about
Travis
to find
Kelce,
out.
sure. I'm sure Travis Kelce can catch the ball, but like, if you have only 2 guys on your offense that do anything, I promise you each one of them can get doubled.
And of course, I have the Vikings at 1, and so do you. And it's hard to say that currently they are not the best team in football right now.
Yeah, they're like just legitimately like.
They have run
listen,
through
as much as I'm a Vikings fan, I promise you, I'm not huffing copium. If anything, we are quite often typically harder on them than anyone else.
And the funny part about that is, as everybody else knows, we're not the only people saying this. This is now like a pundit thing. Yeah, it's they're a lot better than anybody expected them to be, and it's fun to watch.
Oh yeah. We'll see how long it lasts for, but
am I
enjoying the ride?
But again, we've only trailed for like 3 minutes and 20 some odd seconds in the entire season, and that's fucking amazing.
That's very impressive.
Yep. All right. After our power rankings, you ready to do next week's? And then
Oh,
we'll
of
wrap
course.
this up. All right,
course.
starting next week. This is a fun one. NFC South divisional matchup Thursday night. Buccaneers at Falcons.
I think I'm gonna go Bucks.
I am too. I don't have enough trust in the Falcons.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Sunday morning at 8 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning.
Vikings.
Yes, me too. Jets at Vikings in the London game. We're both going to take the Vikings. I don't think there's a question about that. Now for the noon games.
Mm-hmm.
Ravens at Bengals.
Bengals. They both need this win actually, which is really crazy. Which one needs it more? I think honestly the Bengals probably need it more, but I don't know if they can perform. Their defense has not been playing well, and against that offense, like that's going to be killer. I feel like this is going to be the Ravens, and I think it might be another Derrick Henry show.
I agree, which is why I'm also taking the Ravens. They haven't been able to. The Bengals have not been able to stop the run, and I think Henry is just going to obliterate them.
Yeah.
Colts at Jaguars.
I mean, I don't trust the Jaguars doing anything at this point, so I guess I'm going to go with Colts. It's going to be their first win, but yeah.
You know what? I think it's the week that they finally get off the schneid.
Finally win a game?
I'll take it. Because if they're going to win a game, it's going to be something like this.
That's possible.
The game that is going to stink worse than last week's fish. Dolphins at Patriots.
Oh. This was a game we were originally looking at being like, oh yeah, the Dolphins are going to kick their ass.
Flip a coin?
I guess I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the Dolphins, weirdly.
That's kind of where I'm at, because the Patriots are just not very good.
And maybe a second week with Huntley, he can kind of make some connections with the receiver, and then we'll look okay.
That's the only thing I can think of.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Browns at Commanders.
Commanders. I
already typed both into Commanders.
Yeah.
Now here's one that's going to be interesting. Bills at Texans.
Well, obviously the Bills had their stinker, but they've overall been playing really, really good football up until that point.
True.
The Texans have been, I think, a little bit more inconsistent. I think the Bills are probably going to want to come playing angry, probably. So I'm going to lean the Bills on this one.
I'll agree with you. Panthers at Bears.
I'm going to go Panthers.
Okay. I'm going to go
do something
Bears.
Weird. I'm gonna make a little. The Bears have been just kind of on that edge, and if there's a team that could push the Bears a little bit more than you'd expect, it would be the Panthers. And so I'm kind of. We'll see.
Raiders at Broncos.
Oh, God, another bad game. The Broncos played so bad, and the Raiders at least are able to put up points and move the ball. So I guess I'm going Raiders.
I'm also going Raiders.
Even without Devontae Adams, I think they can make it work.
Yeah. I think they're going to find a way.
Yeah.
Cardinals at 49ers.
I mean, 49ers. As much as I like the Cardinals and what they're doing, I just don't think, even with a broken 49ers team, they're going to be able to beat them, but we'll see.
Packers at Rams.
The Rams are injured enough that I could definitely see the Packers winning this. If they weren't injured, I would say the Rams, but I think enough injuries now have shown, as much as I like the Rams, I just don't know if they have enough juice.
You know what? I'll take the Rams.
Okay.
Because
It's a bit of a gamble.
I don't trust Love yet.
I don't either, but I don't trust the Rams offense without their 2 wide receivers. I just, it's kind of a weird one. It's hard to, both top sides are injured, so it's hard to really say 100%.
Giants at Seahawks.
I'm gonna do something weird. I want to go do the Giants.
See,
Malik Neighbors, boy.
I don't know if he's playing though.
I'm banking on it. I'm banking that he's gonna play.
I'm gonna take the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm banking on it. Obviously, if Malik Neighbors doesn't play, and we find out obviously next week that he didn't play, yeah, I'm gonna look like a complete retard. Like it is what it is. I'm banking on it though.
Cowboys at Steelers.
Steelers. I don't trust the Cowboys whatsoever
Me too.
right now.
I'm all in on the Steelers at that. Also, without DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, they're not gonna be able to
I forgot about that. Yeah,
they're not going to be able to pressure Fields enough. I think this is going to the Steelers. And
Yeah.
finally, an interesting one: Saints at Chiefs.
That one's kind of tough just because of the Chiefs' injuries, but they always somehow find ways to win.
Mm-hmm.
But the Saints have played mostly good football. They've had some issues. It just seems like it's hard to really counter the Chiefs even with injuries.
Especially
Like
when
they
they're playing at Arrowhead.
they just seem to find ways to win. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really want to pick the Saints, but I just don't think I can. I think I'm gonna lean Chiefs until I watch a game where they fail, even with as much injuries as they have. I think I have to continue betting on the Chiefs.
I will take the Saints in this one. I will pick up that gauntlet.
Yeah, it's just too much. It looks like it's just too much to overcome.
I know what you're saying, but we'll see. I think this is going to be a really good game.
Yeah. This will be a true test, too. For sure.
And I'm also, there's a part of me that's going, God, I hope they get Davante Adams. Oh, God, on a Monday Night Football game.
That'd be hilarious.
The Saints walking in with Davante Adams on their team with Chris Olave.
I don't think it'll happen by then. I think the trade will not. I think the trade's going to take a bit.
I think it is, too. I don't think it's going to happen immediately.
No.
But it's interesting nonetheless.
I mean, from my understanding, I think the trade deadline is the first week of November, actually, this year. So I think they have pretty much until the end of October to make the decision. So,
alrighty, well, that's everything that we have, I think, this week. I do believe that we are done. Hockey season has not started yet. Even once it does, it'll be a little while before I can do hockey top 10s. But we will be doing some hockey talks after the season begins. Outside of that, there isn't much else to talk about right now, so what we're going to say is we hope that you have a magnificent and fun week. We hope that whatever you put your mind to, you accomplished. If you haven't yet, put your mind to it. We believe in you, that you can totally do it. In the meantime, if you like what we do here, please give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, let us know that you appreciate the content and the time we take making it. And stay bearded.